We bought ourselves a gem from the salvage auction this morning, a 2018 Jeep Trackhawk with a wide body and quite the interesting life story. A Jeep with a Hellcat engine in it. It sounds like something you'd build in your backyard, but somehow, someway, Jeep did it for us. For years, I've been searching for that perfect Trackhawk to rebuild, so naturally when I saw this one with a few minor dings and dents and an aftermarket wide body kit, when I bought this thing from the auction, there were no pictures under the hood. So I guess I didn't technically know there was an engine in it. I assumed, but luckily when we were getting it off the trailer, you could see there was an engine. And fortunately, it looks like it might have survived. We did get kind of lucky there. This car got hit so hard down here on the driver's corner that I was genuinely concerned that if there was an engine in it, the frame rail might have got pushed into it. But it looks like the intake is the only thing that really got damaged. And I mean, being that it already kind of uninstalled itself, based on the auction pictures, I knew there was some suspension damage. I knew this wheel was trashed. I knew the rear one was towed out like 20 degrees. But then when it showed up on the trailer, this front passenger wheel was flopping all around too, so we've got something going on under there. Not to mention this wide body fender flare was there in the pictures, and well, now it's not. I assume it's somewhere on the highway in between California and here. And then there's the simple fact that this thing just got absolutely racked. This is not a light hit. I'm still going with like a telephone pole. I don't know, there's some blue paint on it, but it got all the way back into the strut tower. It dinged it in there. I'm gonna assume that a lot of this is just shifted around. Yeah, look at that. That whole upper frame rail section is pushed over that way. If there's any bit of silver lining here, it's that this lower frame rail, which is the most important, isn't too far off. It has something broken off it there. We'll see once we start ripping stuff away from it. But this thing is just, man, this side of the car from a body damage standpoint isn't awful.
And probably you got like 2 good wheels, right?
Maybe. Outside of all the damage, I do have to give them a bit of credit. This thing looked sick.
It's awesome.
At one point at least. I mean, we got the color matched wheels, color matched brake calipers, even the light blue. I'm not a fan of that, but on this car, it looks decent.
Somebody definitely loved this thing.
And thanks to one lone picture on Facebook, we know exactly who loved this thing. It was posted by a well-known shop out of Los Angeles called RDB. I gave him a shout, and it turns out it was built for rap legend Offset. Hey. Originally, they had it wrapped very, very orange, but they decided to switch it up, threw on the wide body kit, wrapped it blue. That's the one picture I was able to find by Googling blue wide body Trackhawk. Now, on the inside, it doesn't really get much better. Every single airbag's blown except the seats. At least they survived. I don't know why, but the center console is ripped backwards. Other than those not so minor points, the interior's not in bad shape. And most importantly, of course, it's red, which is always the best color.
10 out of 10. Dude, we're gonna be able to play PS5. Oh, that's sick.
I didn't even notice that.
What? Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, I've never had a car with screens in the headrests. Anyway, I know we just got really sidetracked by a few screens. Well, there's parts, and this is probably much more important than the seats. This was part of the front lip, I assume? Yeah, it had to be. That's destroyed. This is what I was hoping to see. That's the missing one, 100%. Boom, there we go. Okay, so it didn't fly off. It's not on a highway in California. It was just in the back seat the whole time. I probably should have looked there first. This is another piece. This probably, oh, it's for this side. Okay. Yeah, so this goes on the passenger side. We're missing the driver's side version of this though. And then we have the side skirt poking through there too. And more bumper pieces. It does not always work out like this. A lot of times when you see parts missing, they're just gone. In this case though, we've got our wide body side skirt and it doesn't even look damaged. Oh, there's another part of the front lip.
Oh, there we go. Is it? Yes, no, maybe?
Oh, it's missing just a little piece.
Fixable.
All right, see what we're working with here. All right, so that went about there. There we are. A somewhat complete wide body kit. Got a grill, part of the headlight that is missing. Other than that, the trunk's pretty much just full of junk, including this piece piece of what was suspension, but at least we found a couple parts of that wide body kit. The only parts we're really gonna need to replace is that front lip. I'm thinking that maybe we can fix this. It's not really damaged that bad. One other positive about this thing is it has only, okay, one negative before we get to that, the steering. It's not connected at all. Anyway, it only has 19,000 miles on it, which is awesome. Low mileage, cool. But then there's the fact that it doesn't have any keys, so we can't really do anything with it until we figure that out. Oh my God. Yeah, that suspension corner in the trunk, this is where it went. That is rough. We have a spring, oh, an iBox special edition spring just hanging out there. Look at all that. It pulled the lower ball joint out of the control arm. The axles, I don't think there's one axle in this thing that's intact. But we're optimists here, right?
Can we with this?
Well,
did you say that again?
yes, I said we're optimists, Siri. I know it's hard to believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, it has an exhaust on it. So, I mean, really though, there's more good news. Pretty much all the rear suspension is fine. We do have to figure out why that wheel's kicked out. The diff, the drive shaft, the Borla exhaust, that all looks great. Again, this is my first Trackhawk, so correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I believe this is an aftermarket lower diffuser. I know that spoiler, if we can call that piece of spoilers aftermarket as well. So the rear half of this car is really where she shines. I said I wanted a Trackhawk project. We got a Trackhawk project. Yeah, this feels a bit like, ripping off a Band-Aid. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna see under this fender, but I just have a feeling it's not gonna be great, right?
It shouldn't be there.
No, that's not the right place at all for this. Oh my God, we're gonna have to cut it off. That got wedged in, that's crazy. That ain't that bad. Based on what we were seeing up here, I fully anticipated that this apron was going to be damaged much further back, and at least from what I can see right now, it looks straight, which is awesome because it's going to make fixing at least this upper portion a lot easier. I do suspect that things will go downhill from here, but hey, we knew what we're getting ourselves into, right? This is way lighter than I thought it was going to be. I mean, we knew this thing was just flopping around, but this is wildly impressive. Honestly, all things considered, it's impressive that this even stayed attached. We've had it in the past where an entire suspension corner, brake, rotor, the upright, everything will be ripped off a car inside a wheel. It didn't happen here, but it's only hanging on by this upper control arm and I suppose the steering rack. We can finally get our wedged iBox spring out of here too, which looks kind of straight to me. After all that, somehow the brake line and wheel speed sensor stayed on. With stuff this jacked up, you almost just kind of forget about little rubber hoses and sensors like that. I still don't know how they survived, but hey, I guess it's a good thing, right? It looks like this knuckle, this upright, it survived. There's scrapes, there's scuffs, there's gouges, but it's not broken like the rest of the suspension. Now, would I trust reusing it? I don't know. Probably not if I'm being honest. But the brake caliper, the rotor, all that survived and it's in actually really nice shape. There's barely any lip on it. But as for the rest of the driver's side here, it's not great. Now don't get me wrong, we kind of knew that things weren't going to be great under here, but seeing it, especially from this angle, that's a whole different thing. This upper frame rail section, that is just accordioned like that. This bar that comes down, which connects that piece to the lower frame rail, that is supposed to be right there. It's moved back 8 inches. On the back of the wheel arch, this box section that goes all the way down the side skirt that includes our jack point. I guess the wheel got pushed into that. That's all jacked up, no pun intended. But I think we can kind of just pull this section forward and rework what's already here. That's not that big of a deal. We've got the lower radiator mount, that's destroyed. The upper radiator mount, that's destroyed. The subframe, the engine cradle, you guessed it, destroyed. But all that stuff, they're bolt-on parts. It's really not that big of a deal. The one thing though that does truly worry me about this rebuild, well, outside of the 20 grand we're about to have to spend in parts, is this lower frame rail. It is all kinds of jacked up. It's Z-shaped here, and it's back past the subframe. And if we can't get this frame rail straight, then that's not going to be straight. And if we can't get that straight, then the control arm's not straight, then the wheel's not straight, and the car drives like crap. This whole dented in area there where it looks like the Hawk just, you know, give it a little love tap, that's not supposed to be there. If you look at the passenger side, it is dead flat. There is none of that. There is this area on the back that scared the shit out of me when we pulled the wheel off it. Turns out though, that one's intentional. It's for wheel clearance. There is one thing here though that at the very least is mildly encouraging, and on a car like this, I will take it. This front upper control arm, the points where this mounts, I believe that they are straight. I don't think this shifted around at all. There is this little tab here where I guess the strut probably hit it while it was getting blasted apart. But when I saw all this damage on the front strut tower when we were looking it over outside, I just assumed that the strut tower itself was probably going to be shifted back. And now I'm not so sure. That part that really scared me, this is just a piece that welds on to the strut tower, and if the strut tower didn't move, then that means our front upper control arm, in all likelihood, that's in the right spot. And with that in the right spot, along with this rear subframe pickup point, we at least have something to start building and measuring from. On the passenger side, I'm not going to say things are great, but they're not that bad. The wheel, that's still flopping around. Once again, the lower control arm, that got cooked. And then there's our axle shaft, which is just, you know, shafting all by itself. But when it comes to all the important stuff, at least, we're golden. Even some of the more fragile parts like this ride height sensor, that survived. We've got the oil cooler. These things will snap off and break in half if you look at them the wrong way. This one seems to be okay, though the plastic mounting bracket did break. And then there's another part we really lucked out on. Dodge did us a solid, or maybe Jeep in this case, and mounted the intercooler pump on the passenger side of the car. On the Chargers, the Challengers, they mounted those on the driver's side, and needless to say, if that was the case on Trackhawks too, she would no longer be with us. As long as the engine's all right, as long as it didn't get blasted like most of the rest of this car, it'll be all right. We'll feel good about this whole deal. Now it does, unfortunately, look like up here there's basically nothing that survived. This is the heat exchanger. I mean, that's trashed.
You know what's the good thing about that? You got the perfect excuse to buy go fast part.
I mean, I'm having a hard time arguing with you on that. That is a fact. If it's broke, we don't fix it, we upgrade it.
Definitely.
This next one's the AC condenser slash the transmission cooler. So this one, we're gonna leave it hang just for now. So I do want to try to start this thing. We're gonna need a trans cooler on it so it doesn't spray all the fluid out. I know what you're probably thinking. How are you gonna start it? You said it didn't have keys. Well, since last time, had the boys from Starks come over and make us some keys. Dude, I think we're money. Now you want to drain. We did, to be fair, try to drain all the fluids out of this, but nothing came out. Everything was bone dry. I guess we, had that last little bit you could only get by ripping the freaking radiator out of the car. The radiator fan itself definitely did get pushed back into the engine. One of the blades, that's missing. The housing, that's cracked up too. That doesn't really matter because we're gonna replace it anyway. The engine, it looks like we really, truly lucked out here. Though we can't at all say the same thing about the ABS module. I'll consider ourselves lucky though if the connector itself is in good shape. And it looks like on the chassis, the body side, it is. I think this is all ripped out of the ABS module itself. One thing though that scared me just a little bit, I don't think this engine is perfectly straight. Now that we have everything off the front end, it looks like it's cocked that way just a hair. Given that this subframe's just toasted though, and the engine mount pedestal sits up so high off it, I'm 99% certain that this engine's just sitting crooked because the subframe's all jacked up. One thing though, that I didn't see until we're down here looking at that, is the fact that our steering rack, it is of the two-piece variety. It's not ideal, I do know that much.
No, it's not supposed to do that, dude.
No, it's definitely most certainly not, right?
No.
So, you remember earlier when we spun the steering wheel and it just free-spooled? I guess we know why. Check that out. This is technically the inside of our steering rack. I'm not gonna say it's a good thing because this rack's probably like $600, $700, $800, so that sucks, but sometimes the destruction is just wildly impressive. To be fair, I don't have a clue what's gonna happen here. They never even put power to this thing at the auction, much less tried to start it, given that they didn't have keys. Let's see. I guess we just gotta go for it here. Fingers crossed. Ah, it sounds like it wants to start. It's doing everything it should, but it's not actually cranking. Press brake and push button to start. Nada. You hear the fuel pump, you hear pretty much everything else, the gauges sweep, but it is not starting. Huh. So, I'm guessing, based on the fact that Austin just told me the brake lights aren't coming on, that it's something with our brake switch. Maybe it's that damaged ABS module. We can press start all we want, but if the car's not registering that we got the brake pedal down, well, that's gonna be a problem. I'm aware this isn't a pretty sight. Everything's connected on the body control module. The brake light switch, that's connected. I was kind of thinking we might have saw some kind of weird like security system. People do all kinds of stuff to these to try to get people not to steal them. I don't see anything though. All the wiring looks unmodified. We've already went through all the fuses. Don't know why the brake light isn't coming on, unless it has something to do with all this damaged wiring here. I even tried to plug a Hellcat ABS module into it to see if, I don't know, the brake pedal switch circuit ran through that pump. It didn't do anything, unfortunately. We're gonna try to jump the brake pedal switch and I guess see if this works. I don't know at this point. Anything?
No. Absolutely nothing.
Well, it's not the brake switch itself. On another note, we found something very interesting slash sketchy slash cool, I guess we'll call it, on the interior, but we'll talk about that once we finish the task at hand here. Which, speaking of, I think we're on to something here. After kind of scratching our heads all day yesterday, I started digging through wiring diagrams last night. Turns out this brake pedal signal, it does run through the ABS module. And while plugging this Hellcat ABS module in was a nice attempt at a quick fix, the pinouts there are completely different. What we really needed was this guy, which is the electrical portion of the ABS module off another Trackhawk. Jesus. There's part of it. Another part. And the last part. Yeah, it's pretty clear now how the other one broke. This upper radiator support, it got bashed right into the side where the electrical connector goes and just broke it in half. Good enough for now. Look at that. Fits perfectly fine when you don't have a jacked up radiator support bashed into it. And while on the harness, our ABS connector does have some damage, the wires that we're looking for, some of these green ones down here, so let's hope that doesn't mess us up any. You feeling lucky this morning?
I think.
You got the golden touch?
It's a Trackhawk, you know?
Hop on in.
Trackhawk position.
So right at home. Real Dodge guy, you know? Jeez. All right, so don't try to crank it. Let's just see if the brake lights work, all right? Hit it. There we are. I've never in my life been so happy to see some brake lights. All right, remember, you're in the driver's seat now. If it don't start, it's on you this time. It ain't me anymore, all right?
This was a setup.
3, 2. Yeah, there we go. There we frickin' go. Yes. Nah, let it run for a second. Why not? It's 20 degrees in this shop this morning. It ain't gonna overheat.
Like the cluster design interior, I kind of like it.
I like it more now that it's running. I wasn't real happy with it yesterday, if I'm being honest. Just out of curiosity here, and put it in gear. Put it in drive, see what happens. It does drive, technically. You're about at the same angle right now, actually.
It's a little off.
So at the very least, one thing we just learned by doing this is that it's not the wheel or the hub that's severely bent, because the wheel itself is still rotating pretty straight. I was expecting it to kind of wobble back and forth, but there's gotta be just like a control arm under there or something that's bent. So that might not be that bad of a fix. This, wow. So at the very least, you know, bare minimum, we got a functional engine and a functional transmission, even if most of the stuff attached to the transmission isn't functional.
I told you this was good.
Now you might as well cut this thing before you overheat it, pop a head gasket or something, but damn. All right.
We're good, G.
Now before we get into the interior and open that whole can of worms, I do want to see what's going on back here in the rear suspension so we at least know what we're up against. Ah, yes. Of course. The old 4-lug nut special. Yeah, looks about right. At the very least, this thing's not flopping around like the front wheels did, so that's something. Yeah, I think we figured it out here. Let's do a little comparison. This is our passenger side rear suspension. The wheel is straight, everything looks pretty good. And this is our driver side rear suspension. It seems like it might have got the old alignment via curb here. If the wheel hit something on this backside, it would have done exactly this. It would have just kinked up. But as best I could tell, everything else under here is pretty much fine. I was a little worried for this lower control arm, but there is a ball joint down here. So I guess when it hit the curb or whatever it might have hit, it just pivoted on that and only crunched up this one arm. I am going to count us really lucky on this whole rear suspension deal. It seems like we're going to get away with just replacing one little control arm that can't possibly be that much money. And for that matter, honestly, the whole rear half of the car, or the underside, it's all in really decent shape. The gas tanks, a lot of times these will get damaged by the forklifts they use at the salvage auctions. There is, however, a few little dents in these Borla mufflers. You don't, by any chance, know how that could have happened?
I think I know the person who did this, to be honest with you.
I can't see anything, by the way. Alright, now before we get into trying to dismantle this mess of an interior and strip out everything that's wrong with it, check this out. So when I got in it the first time, I thought this was broken. I think I even commented on it that this is all pushed back. Well, it turns out it's on rails. It's made to do this, and it is not from Jeep. At some point, somebody tried their best to install a hidden compartment down here. If you look all the way down there, I know it's hard to see, there's rails just like there would be on a toolbox that allow this to slide back and forth. Realistically, it didn't stay hidden very well, and even if you can manage to get it into the proper closed and latched position, you can still see right here that there's a gap. It's pretty obvious that there's something there, but it's still, I guess, a pretty cool feature. It does seem to be a trend with rapper cars. Last time I looked at a rapper car, Fernando, Lil Durk's armored TRX. That thing had hiding spots everywhere. This one, I guess, is a little less serious, being that it only has the one.
That we know so far.
That's true. Could be more, you never know.
Exactly.
Guess we'll see soon. Just being in a car that has one of these is kind of a funny feeling. Like, what do we even do with it?
This can be your wallet compartment, right? In case you get pulled over, you can be, give me the second, right?
1 second, stealth mode. Next second, got that thing on you.
You know I got it on me.
I know this probably shouldn't come as a surprise, but there's always that little bit of, I don't know if we'll call it worry or excitement. When you're working on a new chassis like this, you kind of don't know what you're getting into, but this thing is Mopar through and through. Everything's pretty much just business as usual until you get to the part, of course, somebody else has already touched. On the bottom of most of our panels, all the little tabs are broken, and then there's, I don't know why they did this, to be honest. In this main center console area, all these clips are supposed to pull just simply up and out. It's supposed to be a really easy removal, but there are just like wood screws, I guess, that are jammed where those tabs are supposed to go. So we basically had to break everything to get it off. I don't know what the logic is there in doing that, but hey. Even down here in the bottom of the cup holder, which is just supposed to pull out with that panel, they jammed a frickin' wood screw on their like 5th attempt at doing so, right through the bottom of the cup holder, so all the tabs on that have now broke. I think this used to be our neutral release for the transmission. Well, it's not connected anymore.
Hey, safety first.
I think it's about to get interesting. We have found some random electronics back here, and they are not factory. There is some janky wiring connected to some random relays down here by the secret compartment. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about this kind of stuff, but given that there's no aftermarket stereo, there was no gauges, no random electronics that would need something like this, this is the random piece that they like hack up under the center console. This had all those screws into it, and it was held on by these like pieces of sheet metal. I've never seen anything like that in my life. And
what is
freaking towels?
Okay.
So this is the cable.
Is that like a shifter cable? Wow.
Oh, now we know what this is. So this, where'd that cable go? I just assumed, because this is where the neutral release lever is in these cars, that this was that cable and it was locked. This is a freaking window motor. This was inside, if I can get it in the hole.
Wow.
There we go. Took me a second. This was inside here. I just yanked it out thinking it was broken. No, this is a whole setup that I guess really locks this in place. So when I was talking about earlier how this thing wasn't that good of a secret hiding spot, how it didn't really shut that well, I bet that's because we didn't know how to operate this. Once this window motor would have pulled it closed, I bet this thing would have been virtually undetectable. Wow.
That's weird, actually.
I mean, it's cool. I do have to imagine that it was not RDBLA that did this. There is... There's duct tape, the wiring. It looks like they cut this out of an extension cord. They must have done this fast, too. There are metal shavings everywhere down here. They didn't bother to clean it out. That, where they had that window motor slid back into, this is supposed to be an HVAC duct, so we're going to have to probably do something about that. This has made the nicknaming of this car is very easy. I already got it figured out, Fernando. It's no problem.
Oh, my God.
Let's hear it. Ready for this? Yeah. That's the Trackhawk. All right.
Oh, that's a good one.
Trackhawk, all right?
With double P, right?
Double P. Sure, double P.
Yeah.
Dude, right in. That's so cool. That's so cool. I don't know if I should think this is cool, but I definitely do. I've never found something to this level. We found all kinds of crazy stuff in cars. Nothing like this. Considering this console is welded in, I think our best bet to remove it is just to, really, really go after it with a breaker bar, right?
You say welded?
Yes, the rails are welded in. We're just gonna... There we are. That close. One secret compartment. This little red plug here, that used to be what you would just pop off and unbolt the center console, and it'd all come out real easy. Obviously, they couldn't have those in there anymore. Wild. Just wild. I think we're clear. Honestly, I don't really know, because I haven't done one of these before, but we're rolling with it. It's coming, sort of.
Something's calling over here.
I thought you said you got it.
I said I might have it. Let's be real here. I think we're loose now. I think we got it this time.
Nope.
You notice how everything that's still connected is on Dalt's side.
All right. There are, now that I'm looking, there's at least 3 more things hooked up over here on top of the 5 that he already took apart. And he said this was ready to come out.
Said it was almost ready to come out, right?
Now that I've thoroughly inspected it, we think we've got it this time.
Oh, we're clear.
No, we're not.
All right, I think we got this. Oh, yeah. Flawless removal. So in the grand scheme of things, I am well aware this doesn't matter, given that our dashboard has a massive hole blown in it from the airbag. But this car, it was optioned with pretty much every option you could get on a Trackhawk. While base price on this thing was $86,000, the way they optioned it, it came out to $101,000, including $5,000 for the signature leather interior package. Leather that is now completely shrunk, completely ripped up on a car that's only, what, 6 years old? As cool as it is to have this interior package with the sick door panels and everything, this is surely not going to be cheap to replace. So I'm not thrilled about that. But we will certainly cross that bridge a bit down the road. Now we've stripped the interior of everything we need to replace. The dashboard, all those airbags, the headliner. We got a pretty decent grip on what we need to de-hack, unhack, reverse hack, whatever. Primarily the stuff around the center console. But there is one thing, thankfully, that instead of having to replace, we can send out and have repaired. Our seat belts, they are locked up. If you happen to get into an accident and you're wearing your seatbelt, which you definitely should be, down here inside the retractor, there's some type of mechanism that's gonna blow just like an airbag, but instead of having something come out of it, it just locks up the seatbelt so it holds you in place. With these, we're actually gonna send them out and have these mechanisms. Yeah, you can hear something's not right in there, right? Anyway, we're gonna send these out and have them repaired, which hopefully the end result will be save us a few bucks instead of just buying another set. Now, traditionally, we just toss this thing on the frame machine, get the tugging on it a little bit, it should be good as new. But being that this one's damaged back behind the subframe, I don't think that's the wisest of ideas. So instead of repairing this frame rail, we're gonna replace it. Now we just have to figure out how to do that. The frame rail, as best I can tell at least, is only damaged from right there forward. So can we replace just that section, or do we have to replace the entire frame rail assembly that stretches all the way back under the floorboard? Realistically, I think the only way we're gonna figure out what we need to do here is to get cutting on it and see what happens. But I don't think we're gonna be able to do that too well with this big, beautiful American V8 in the way. Now, as cool as it would have been to tackle all this stuff while not having to pull the drivetrain out of the car, you know, especially considering that this is that one project that we're not gonna go crazy on, which we'll see how that holds up. It's just gonna be easier if we drop the whole thing out. That way we'll have access to the inside of this frame rail. We're not working around the engine while trying to, you know, fix up our chassis.
How do you feel lying to yourself?
What do you mean?
About projects, you know, like, yeah, I'm gonna keep it stock, I ain't gonna go crazy, and...
I never said stock. I'm just saying that we're not gonna turn this into some, you know, 3-month-long crazy engine build. Just wanna get this thing on the road and get it running.
Get.
Why you gotta do me like this, man? You really put me in a tough spot here. No, we're not going crazy with this one. There might be, you know, a thing or two planned for. Either way, the engine is basically ready to come out. I do have to take a second and just acknowledge how easy Jeep has made this whole deal to work on. The whole front end comes off, everything's super accessible, and even the underside, being all-wheel drive, it took, I don't know, 10 minutes to prep for removal. I mean, we shouldn't be shocked, right? We've had a lot of, you know, really badly wrecked stuff here, and I don't think that I've ever seen an engine move side to side when you're hitting a subframe bolt. We're off. This is the first time I've pulled a Trackhawk engine, so I wouldn't be surprised if we forgot something, but I don't know, think we're good. Now we have no front end on this. The engine transmission, that's about to come out, and a lot of weight in the back. I think it's fine. Look good to you, Fernando?
I don't think she's going anywhere.
The famous last words, yeah. Right?
You forget something?
No, I know this looks weird at, you know, first glance, but the drive shaft, don't want to pull it all the way off. Want to leave the rear half as assembled as we can. So we had to, you know, yank it out of the way in the transmission that it's now trying to slide past. There's actually one piece of wiring there that we seem to have forgot as well. I assumed, very wrongfully, that this just went up into the engine harness. No, it goes straight into the floor of the car. Everything else looks pretty much just standard issue Mopar. We are clear. all the way around, as far as I can tell. Let's take it up and see how it goes. All right. Okay, now seeing it like this is huge compared to the cars, the Chargers, and whatnot. Wow. Not only does this thing sit halfway up my torso, but the transmission, it's long compared to the rear-wheel drive versions. I guess for once we can kind of just go tuck this thing away, or we'll try our best not to mess with it. You know, no clue how successful that'll actually be, but hey, we'll try. Now we can get the real scope of the damage back here. And I mean, it's not anything we weren't expecting. It's not like it gets much worse. Now we can just see it all. This, of course, is where we're thinking the damage ends, and it does go a hair further back than that, but not much. Not enough to make a real difference in what we're about to do here. You can see how badly it's creased there, but it is still in front of the strut tower, which is by far the most important part here, I think. If it's at all possible, I would love to leave this strut tower in place. It does have a little bit of damage. That's just a lip that's bent down. This is a bracket that spot welds onto the back side of it that I believe supports the airbox. This is another bracket, I believe, for the same thing. We can replace all that, but if we can leave this where it sits, it saves us a lot of trouble. So this is our frame rail horn. It's fairly light, it's hollow. It really wouldn't be difficult to replace if we only had to replace this. But you look further into the frame rail and then you can see why this might become a challenge. Anytime you got something important that's bolted to your frame rail, like say, I don't know, a subframe that holds your entire engine, you're gonna have support in the frame rail, and that's what you're seeing there. And I didn't realize that that's what these were for before, but it looks like that structure piece is just slid inside of the frame rail and they welded in from the side and the top. Now we can't fix this thing anywhere in the middle of one of those. We gotta, you know, this is probably not the right way to do this. We gotta find somewhere that's hollow just like that front piece of the frame we just ripped off. I was originally wanting to cut it about here, but the more we look into this, I think back here in the middle of the strut tower, that might be the ticket. We do have this kind of overlaid section of metal on top of the frame rail we can use as an alignment point, and there shouldn't, at least I don't think, be any kind of internal support in there. And then there's the added bonus that the rear half of the strut tower, that's going to stay on the old frame rail, but the front section of the strut tower will attach this to our new frame rail that we weld on, and that'll just be one more point that'll help fuse everything together and keep it, you know, strong. Now, of course, we're not just going to go cutting back there from the jump. We're going to cut it section by section, little by little, to make sure we don't run into anything that we don't like. We're good like all the way through there. That's basically all the damaged portion of the frame rail off. You can see it's still a little wonky there. It's kind of off to the side. I think that'll fix itself once we go back a couple more inches. Now on the inside of this, you can see there's some kind of structure. What is it? 8 inches in there. So we want to keep this repair in front of that, which gives us, I don't know, something right about there to work with. Dead in the center of this arch in the strut tower. Look off to you?
Yeah.
You don't sound confident. I think it's off. I guess I don't sound confident either. The strut tower should be off. So we've already decided that we're gonna go pretty much right in the middle of the strut tower arch on this inside part of the frame rail. But for now, we're gonna cut it way up here just to give us some more room to work with in case, you know, plans change. Guess it was off, huh? We'll leave that there for now. On the outside, though, I had originally said that I wanted to avoid that inner structure piece because I thought it would complicate things. I think if we're really careful about it and we just remove this outer skin of the frame rail without cutting into that intersection and do it, say, right at this seam, we should be able to use that intersection as kind of a backing plate to strengthen the new piece we're going to put on. Sound a good plan?
Huh?
Good plan?
What?
It's a good plan.
What?
It's a good idea.
What?
Well, we accomplished what we set out to do. It does sound like great progress and everything, but taking stuff apart, that's the easy portion of this whole deal. I actually consider myself quite good at taking stuff apart, intentionally or unintentionally. Now we have to put it all back together, and this is where things tend to just...
This is when we call for help, right?
There is no help coming this time.
Are you sure about
No
that?
help coming. Now the only thing standing in between us and a fixed up Trackhawk, other than of course knowledge, skill, professional help, and mechanical ability, are parts. Luckily though, 99.9% of what we need, that's the wrong side of the chain.
I think I
Almost had it there. You know what? We're just gonna what the fuck? 99.9 99.9% of what we need just showed up. Trust me, I know it might seem excessive to buy another Jeep to fix the Jeep that we already bought, but after doing a little bit of number crunching, this turned out to be by far the most cost-effective option to get ours back on the road. Even with a bit of a hookup from our friends down at Steve White Motors, getting everything we need from the dealer was gonna run us like $20,000-ish. That's not gonna work. So instead, we bought this thing for the same $20,000. First thing we did once we got it back to the shop, ripped the engine and the transmission out of it and recouped half of our money. So now we only have $10,000 wrapped up in this Jeep, which is not a Trackhawk, it's an SRT8, but hey, I think all this stuff's the same. Quite ironically, this chassis might be in better shape than the one we're actually repairing, at least from a structural standpoint. This one got hit back here on the driver rear quarter. The worst part of this whole deal is down here on the lower passenger side. That like rocker area got bashed in. For our purposes, none of that matters. We needed a good front end, we got that. We also needed a complete set of airbags. There's not a single airbag blown in this one. So unless we get into this thing, we get started working on it and find that there's something different, something that's not the same from a Trackhawk to an SRT, I think we have pretty much everything we need. As soon as we saw how bad that Trackhawk was, kind of knew the easiest route was going to be to get a parts car. But the only problem with that whole idea is that it is nearly impossible to find one of these that isn't destroyed in the front end. Not only did the parts car method save us a ton of money in this case, but it's also going to prevent us from getting nickel and dime to death on the back end. When you're coming down the home stretch on a rebuild like this, that's about the time you find out you need all these little parts that you didn't even know existed. Things like these rubber pads on the front bumper, stuff like this little AC line bracket. Dumb little parts like this weather strip. None of this costs much money at all. It just almost always results in another 5 trips back to the dealer after you thought you had the car rebuilt. Oh, that always sounds so painful, doesn't it? All right, we're clear, I think. Yes, we're clear. We do have a little bit of damage on this front bumper. They must have smashed something right at the bottom, but I think we're gonna put a front lip on this, just like that wide-body kit on the Trackhawk was supposed to come with. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. Yeah, we definitely gotta get this front plate bracket off of here as well. Can't have that. This is not too bad underneath. One minor difference is the SRTs. They came with fog lights with the Trackhawk. They dished them for cooling purposes, I think. This is gonna get axed, and we're gonna replace it with this, a $20 grill. Oh, don't tell me this is wrong.
Oh no! No!
I think, yeah, maybe those fog lights are going right back in. All right, we're fine. It's not a different bumper, which is what I was worried about. There's an equivalent piece that's basically a Trackhawk version of this bezel that goes on the back of the bumper, and then we'll be able to put the grill in. So kind of a false alarm, but we'll have to do that later. Jeep has done such a phenomenal job of making it so this whole front assembly could come out as one unit, but given that we have a ton of structural work to do, it probably wouldn't be ideal if there's a giant radiator in our way. There we go. This is definitely a problem for later, but one thing I know for sure that we're gonna have to source is a heat exchanger. Given that the SRT is not supercharged, even though we have a good radiator, fan, AC condenser assembly here, it doesn't have a heat exchanger with it, so that we're gonna need to buy. All right, could be wrong here, usually am, but I think we are, oh no, this time I'm right. We are fully out. I think by leaving this whole assembly kind of bolted together, even though it comes apart in like 3 or 4 different pieces, it's gonna give us at least a decent shot of having it all line up when we put it on the Trackhawk. You know, after working on the Trackhawk, it feels weird almost to work on one of these that isn't blown apart in the front end. There's our front diff. This front diff, just like the Trackhawk, is a 370 ratio, but the actual part numbers from Dodge, they're different. I honestly don't have a clue if they're cross-compatible, but for all the damage we had in the front of the Trackhawk, the front diff looks like it might have survived, so we may just be able to use that. But for now, we'll stash this one away in this giant pile of parts we're accumulating, you know, just in case. Now, one other area where this SRT is really coming in clutch for us is the suspension. Being that, you know, every single piece of suspension on the Trackhawk was jacked up, blown apart, or just straight missing, what we're gonna do is just rip this entire corner out of here in one big piece. Don't get caught. That way, we can just take this and slide it right into the Trackhawk when the time comes. There's our steering rack, which, unlike the one in the Trackhawk, you cannot see the inside of, though it does remove in just a really awkward way. You have to pull it out the side of the subframe. I can only imagine in like a service scenario when you're trying to replace one of these with an engine or a front diff in the car, this has to suck. Then there's the final piece of the puzzle, outside of the frame rail, of course. And that is our front subframe. That's not light. No. Now, the fun part, busting out some new tools. And I figured since we're doing, you know, real body shop type activities, we get some real body shop type tools. This is called a tram gauge. Basically, from the 5 minutes of research I've done on YouTube about this thing, the way it works is you can measure from different points on the body, say cross frame rails like this, and you'll get a measurement of exactly how far apart they are on a good chassis. And then when we put everything onto the Trackhawk, we can make sure it all matches. 1,140. A magnet ain't magneted. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, I got the measurement, it's fine. 1,140 millimeters. I presume it should be the exact same here, and it is. So side to side on the subframe bolts, it's actually too short to fit. So what we're gonna do, I guess, is go to this other bolt hole on the front frame rail. 928. Same deal when it's turned the other way. At least we know this chassis is square, not that we thought it wouldn't be. Now, curious to see if the one measurement we can take still checks out on the Trackhawk.
Are you nervous?
Obviously. I mean,
This is not even my car, but I am.
we've been thinking this is straight the whole time, but let's see. All right, we're already set on 1140. We're good. Look, check this out. Straight frickin' in. All right. So at least now we verified, albeit with a $100 tool from Amazon, that this is straight. You guys know how it is here. We're kind of used to winging it and finding what I guess we'll call alternative methods to fixing things once in a while. But this is one time when we really had to be sure that everything's spot on. And after seeing that, I feel at least, I don't know, about 75% more confident in this whole project.
Super close.
Oh, I told Fernando, hey, I'm not gonna hit that bracket, right? You know, the one we need for the airbox. Give it a little trim, but you know, we're good.
Weight reduction.
Bingo.
Now I do the honors.
Do the honors, my friend. This one's gonna be a bit critical because if we just kind of slash it right there through the strut tower, we're gonna be dangerously close to where we need to tie the new one into the Trackhawk. So we gotta go back further. Fernando, see that hole in the strut tower?
Yeah.
Right there? See if you can get a blade through it.
It works?
Like it was meant to, you know what? I think I know why they put that there. Just figured it out. All right, hack straight down there, we'll be golden. Woo. Now, assuming my math is correct here, it's not really math, is it? No. Assuming I'm correct here, we unbolt this, and we have got ourselves one fine frame rail. Our frame rail is cleaned and essentially ready to go on the Trackhawk. But before we start slapping on all our sustainably sourced, if you will, parts, there is one more thing I think we need to take care of. And for this, we just went straight to the dealer. Primarily because this whole little fender support assembly was only $75. On this particular panel, there's so many little spot welds that we'd have probably spent more than $75 in consumables alone trying to remove it from the SRT. So I figured for this at least, the dealer was the right call. Yeah, I probably shouldn't be surprised at all, but this has taken far longer than I originally anticipated. We have went around the outside and got every little spot weld drilled out, or sanded out in this case, and free. Now the only thing we have left are these ones on the inside, which I actually didn't see. Oh, we're clear. 3.5 hours later, we are clear. Whew! Now with that out of the way, we can say with absolute certainty that there isn't any damage back further on the chassis. It's just this stuff that was up here in the front, and in the grand scheme of things, despite how this might look right now, it's really not as bad as it could have been. This is our inner fender well cover panel. I don't know. I'm sure it has an official name. I do not know what it is. Whatever it's called, that's what butts up against the back of that big panel we just cut off. Now, originally, I did think this was kind of a one-piece deal. This whole upper fender rail would be sold as one piece by the dealer. That did not turn out to be the case. So I got to looking, and while we should, I guess, buy the book replace this, being that it has a little bit of damage, it is huge. It goes up here behind the A-pillar frame, which is basically one giant piece that runs all the way to the back of the car. This, in all likelihood, will be even more complex than the piece we just cut off of it. And given that it has the structural integrity of a wet napkin, I'm thinking that we just, I don't know, brute force it back into place. All right, be honest with me, Tim. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a body guy do I look like right now?
Right now, solid 9.5.
Oh, okay, all right. Actually really did what I wanted it to do. 9.5. Nicest set of $2 pliers you ever used, huh?
Impressive.
I'm not gonna say it's straight, but it's straight-ish. Straight with a millimeter of variance either direction. Now the moment of truth. Does our new panel actually fit? Go under the windshield. Now, for starters, we're just gonna line this up exactly where the old one came off. This is about where we should be on the back end. Again, loosely. And when we're there, wow, our support bar bolts, they line up pretty well perfectly. The top one especially. The bottom one's, I don't know, a little off, but they made this have such a range of adjustability. I can't help but think the Jeep knew somewhere down the line someone like me was going to be yanking on this thing and trying to replace body parts. Now, while I did go through and finish prepping our new panel for install, we're not going to weld it on just yet. We don't want to make anything permanent until we make sure we have that lower frame rail dead nut straight. Now's about the time where all that theory is out the window. We're about to find out if we did this right or not. My plan here is to install the subframe via the 3 mounting points that we do have intact, and then we'll be able to kind of use that 4th mounting position to aid us in guiding in and mounting the frame rail that we're putting on the truck. So we're not going to tighten it all the way down. We do want a little maneuverability. So, I mean, I guess we're about there, Fernando. We got to stop stalling. It's time to throw the frame rail on. You know, sometimes we say moment of truth, and it feels undeserving of the term moment of truth. This one, however, does not. No, that was a good thing. That was a good thing.
Yes.
That was a good thing.
Look at that.
I'll see where we're at here.
It's getting there.
So that is more or less how this is going to sit. Question is, where does that leave us on the rest of it?
That looks pretty good.
This does, but there's a lot more to it than that. Okay, I mean, this isn't saying much because there is a lot of play here, but it's in the hole.
That's what she said.
We at least have it set in place. Now we can, you know, fine tune it. This is about where this needs to be. We set it a lot looser on the inside though, so we can try to run, I don't know, some type of backing plate. We say we take a measurement here, see how bad we jack this whole thing up.
I don't know, but for some reason, I got good expectations.
Thanks, appreciate that. So on the lower front horn bolts, we need to be 862.5 millimeters apart. There is a 0% chance we've nailed this off the jump. Let's hope we're close. Actually, we are really close. It could certainly be further off, certainly be worse. Let's see. Luckily, all we need to do here, a little tug, right in, check that out. There we are.
Wow.
All right, so that's our first measurement down. This one feels like it is, I mean, a 1/2 of a millimeter out. It's still really, really good though. And now that we have that other one dead nut straight, I don't know, do we even worry about a 1/2 millimeter on something like this? Or is that going to be a battle that we just keep fighting and it never really gets any better? I don't know how good of a gauge something like this truly is, given that this was produced at one time, this one another, maybe the heights of metal are a little bit different. But with that pretty much perfect and our crossed measurements on the front frame arm spot on, I think we'll just roll with it, start bolting up everything else, and see if it's something that needs to be addressed later. So we're gonna try to lock these guys in place with the front bumper beam.
If this fit, we're actually good, right?
Not necessarily, because look at all the play in this front bumper beam. They made these things real sloppy, so it's definitely gonna fit. It doesn't necessarily mean we're good, but it will at least keep these frame rails exactly how we have them right now on the front side. So we're still dead on in the center of the head of the bolts. I'm okay to call this good. It's locked in place. We've got that. We've got the backside kind of locked. We've got the subframe locked. Now, I guess we got to go up top again. Just by the off chance that we do get this to fit right, I don't really see a need to take it back off. So we're going to go ahead and put all our weld-through primer on. And yes, I know I just spray painted the windshield. It's broken. We got to replace it, all right? Don't come after me in the comments for that one. Should fit right up. I have high confidence in this one, being that it fit up before, at least before we had this actual bar here. We'll get right in. Now that doesn't necessarily mean things are perfect. I'm gonna get this tightened down, see how it fits on the back. Yeah, we're actually a good bit off in the back. I can fit my thumb in there. It's not really close at all. Everywhere else is pretty solid. Just in and out wise. Right, go ahead and break her loose. Oh yeah, now we can slide it up. That's more what we wanted to see. It's crazy what a little hammering will do. I think we can try to fit the rest of the front end, and if it all fits, I guess we can start welding stuff together. Go ahead and pull off the one remaining piece of Trackhawk core support that actually survived. Well, we can slide the new piece in as one giant unit. As I'm getting ready to slap on this new used core support, I noticed something that's a little weird, I guess we'll call it, on our new upper fender brace from Dodge. There's supposed to be holes to mount our core support right there, and right there. There's also supposed to be holes to mount our fender right there and right there. Yet none of those are drilled on this. I can kind of understand the fender bolts. That way you can get your fender mounted where you need to. And they're very self-tapperish type screws. You just run them down through these little pedestals and call it good. But with the core support mounting holes, they are legitimate mounting provisions on this fender bracket. So I guess we're gonna have to get it in there, see if we have access to mark where those holes should be, drill our own, and just ram some bolts down through it. Luckily, we do have this flat panel that kind of acts as a stop for the core support, so at least that'll give us some type of reference of where we need to, stop. We did have to pull that front crash bar back off to be able to get this whole front core support assembly on, so let's hope nothing shifted around there. This big rectangular core support assembly, it's got 8 main bolts that hold it on. There's a couple more up top. We're not going to count those because I don't think they do much. There are 4 bolts on each side of the frame rail. 2 go in this way, 2 go in that way. The ones that go in from the front, super simple, standard bolts. They go in here, they attach there, no big deal. But the ones that go in from the side, they sit on these weird pedestals. We can get a real good look at it here on this frame rail section that we cut off the Trackhawk. It's a big reverse threaded bolt with a provision for another bolt to go inside of it. As for install though, it's not gonna change much. We'll run these bolts all the way up against the core support, mount it up, call it a day. All right, nothing's changed. We're still golden here. All right, so it actually worked out pretty well. The only thing we weren't able to accomplish is to match this kind of crush pattern they did over on this side from the factory. Frankly, I don't know how we would have done that, but considering everything that could have went wrong here, that should probably be the least of our concerns. Far more important is the fact that at least so far, everything is measured out properly. Everything is as straight gets. Nothing's weird, nothing's wonky. We haven't had to do anything sketchy. I mean, nothing that sketchy, right? At the very least, I can say with full and utter confidence, she ain't going nowhere. Yeah, some of the plug welds might not be the prettiest thing in the world, but they are strong, they're gonna work, and I'm good to call this piece done. Now though, comes the most critical part of this entire build, securing our lower frame rail. I went around and plug welded every single spot weld that we so painstakingly drilled out, but frankly, this was the easy part, outside of some kind of awkward angles. Parkour! Where things get a bit trickier is this one long weld that really fuses our new frame rail to our old one, and for that, we gotta call in the big dog. Break it down for him. How's this gonna go?
Metal comes out of here. Goes on there. Makes sparks, melts. One panel. Looks like a real welding genius did it, so not
Put
much.
that on a t-shirt, you know?
Yeah, not much more to say.
There's a lot of different times where this whole deal could have went wrong, but now is one of the biggest. I think, at least, that we have everything secured enough that we can pull the subframe and nothing should, tweak back. If I hit this and it goes boink, we're in trouble. That didn't move.
No?
I mean, to be fair, it should never move, so I don't know why I sound so surprised by it. All right, let's find out just how, in place it actually is. 1140 is what we're looking for. Once again, just like on the other chassis, go ahead and set the gauge from the jump.
Are you ready for that?
I'm ready. I'm ready, and I feel good about it, honestly. One. You ready? Oh! All right. Professional, right? Even Tim admits it.
Somewhat pro.
Semi-amateur. We got one more here, 928 millimeters. This one is a little wonky, not because the frame rail is off at all, at least I think, but because we're fighting with this radiator support now. It's kind of making us put this at a weird angle. Either way, it was this close. As far as measurements go, I'm calling this a massive, huge, colossal W. Is that enough? You got any other descriptors?
Well, I was just about to say that's a lot of descriptors, but nah, I'm drawing blank.
With the frame rail seemingly in the right place, it's time to lock it all down and weld up the inside of the frame rail. And for this, rather than just weld the two pieces of rail together, we decided to make a plate that would overlap the frame rail, with the idea being it might have a little more structural integrity. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Everybody and their mother can see clear as day that this frame was sectioned in right here. And sure, if we would have went the route where we replaced it all the way down under the floor, maybe we could have got away without that. We debated for quite some time whether we should try to make this as stealthy and OEM looking as possible or as strong as possible. And when those are your two options, I feel like this is the only option, right? I guess we'll see. First speed bump when it's you know. And I know I just went on this whole rant about how we're not that worried about aesthetics and it's all about strength. But there is one bit of aesthetics that I'm very excited for, and that is to outfit this front end and make it look like a Trackhawk again.
Hopefully all the gaps, you know, are pretty good.
That's a whole nother deal here that we haven't even begun to explore. Let's just, yeah, I guess fingers crossed, right?
Man, look at that. Way better than I thought.
Honestly, yeah, it's pretty good. To be fair, lining up one panel with a door, that's easy. Then we have to make the hood and the bumper fit as well with this panel. That's a bit more tricky. Headlight in, which we definitely, most certainly do not need for paint, but hey, I want to see this thing looking like a real car, so we're gonna put them in. All right. You know, this is going smooth. I had high-ish expectations, but it's always nice to see that, you know, pan out in real life. Rather than fighting with our fender flares, when we go to put that front bumper on, might as well go ahead and take it off, being that we don't need it anyway. After all, who needs those little baby flares when we have those big, gaudy, wide-body ones we're about to stick on? Cool. For as big and goofy as these cars are, I do have to admit, the whole front bumper install, pretty easily. There's not that many clips on it. So we didn't tighten the hood all the way, just to give it a little play here. Okay. This don't look too bad. I'm saying that a lot here.
Could be worse.
Ready?
No.
Of all the things to not be ready for, I mean, this one. All right. I will take it. I will take it. There's still a little bit of adjustment to be done here, of course. I mean, we don't have to get it perfect until we get the thing painted and it's really ready for final assembly. But as far as a test fit, this legitimately could not have went better. It really couldn't have. That guy with the cigarettes doing the Porsches, Kieran Akai, better watch out, right? Coming for his job in the Mopar market. I still consider us very, very lucky to have even got these front bumper pieces, considering the shape the front bumper was in when it showed up to the shop. Passenger side one, this one's in pretty much perfect shape. And obviously, just so we're all on the same page here, we're just fitting this up for fitting its sake. We're fitting it up for fitting it up's sake. We're not towing it to the body shop with all this. It'll be scattered all over the highway. Now, while we did get the driver's side one, it still has a bit of damage. We weren't able to source a replacement one of these, so we're gonna leave it up to the body shop to repair this one and attach it to the car. Final thing we need to accomplish before we can wrap this puppy up and send it up to the body shop is make it roll. Meaning we have to fix this rear suspension and add suspension to the front of the car. Last video, we saw all the obvious issues with the rear suspension. Clearly, this arm here is supposed to be straight. It's not supposed to do that. We knew we had to replace that. But once we got a little further into it, we saw that that wheel had actually hit our strut, bashed into it to the top there. Now, I don't know necessarily if it's bent, but we have one off the SRT. I mean, why not use it to be safe? Not good? Good. This is about where our wheel was. Go ahead and remove the rest of our factory suspension. Now, what do you think, Fernando? This one probably could have been used. I don't know if this one's damaged, but we know for sure that this one off the SRT is good. So I guess just like some of those rear suspension parts, you should probably just swap it out just to be safe. On another note, I can say with 100% certainty that the driver's side would not be able to be used. This, yeah, not gonna cut it. The only little change we gotta make here is swap over our I-back special lowering springs. Can't have this thing, sit like a 4x4. Ironically, like a Jeep probably should. Slide our I-back on to our new used strut. Now go ahead and slide this whole assembly in. A little more. All right, we're in. Now Tim's gonna feed us in our steering rack. In one side, out the other. Now a question for a real mechanic that's actually worked in this kind of setting. Tim, earlier I said I suspect that it would suck to take this out of here with an engine and a front diff in here. Do you concur?
Probably engine out.
That's wild to me.
There's a lot of engine out stuff these days. The guys that build the cars don't think about the guys that work on the cars.
Fucking engineers, man. For the time being, we're gonna put these very heavy SRT wheels on. We do have a pretty sick set of wheels on the way for this car. They're not here yet. Even if they were, we certainly wouldn't send the thing to the body shop with them on it.
Is it me? Oh, this car has been like Sharpie before the accident.
Yeah, I do believe
Right?
actually that there was some major curbing on this, and somebody has either spray canned it or Sharpied it.
That's smoking. That looks
It's like a salt or pepper shaker. That's right, guys. Not only does he build sick turbo kits, he does this. Whatever this is, he does that too.
Dude, lug nuts related.
That didn't feel very good.
I think you got a toxic relationship with lug nuts.
It's this place.
It's a roller, baby. It's not a shell anymore. It's a roller, all right? This is my wide-body Jeep Trackhawk, and today we're gonna bring her back to life. After originally being built for Rap Legend Offset, it was involved in a little fender bender, auctioned off by the insurance company, and well, we know how that turned out. Now, as it usually goes, the damage ended up being way worse than I anticipated, so we bought ourselves another, less total Jeep SRT, which gave us everything we needed to sort out the body damage. We had it sprayed in Porsche gray black, real incognito-like, and now it kind of, sort of, looks like a car again. Which, I realize makes it seem like the hard work's already behind us, but... Oh, and on top of all that, you remember when I said, guess for once we can kind of just go tuck this thing away, or we'll try our best not to mess with it. Yeah, that didn't really work out. Probably could have saw that coming. But hey, we got the engine out of the OG Demon here, and what Trackhawk couldn't benefit from a Demon swap, right? And the new supercharger, cam kit. Yeah, kind of spiraled out of control once again, but hey, we were about to build one filthy Trackhawk. Name a better sound.
I mean,
Fair. Okay, fair. Maybe this is the second best sound. Now, even though this came out of a running, driving Demon, there's still quite a few things we're gonna have to change on it to make it work in a Trackhawk. But before we get to swapping things around, we gotta take care of the one thing that I just stupidly didn't do when we originally built this motor and give her the old chop chop treatment. Every time I'd fire that Demon up when it was actually still able to be fired up, and it wasn't. I'd always be talking about how we need to get back in there, do that cam. Well, better late than never, I guess.
Now for our cam, we're gonna be running the same exact cam we got Fernando Z in the Demon truck, the Fly Ryan Titan 2. We had a lot of power with it. Sounds awesome. Good enough for me.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I've done it a few times now, so.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you learn by now, right? Now Tim's gonna spin the factory cam over to get all these lifters up in the bore, and he's gonna pull the shaft out, and I'm gonna slide the other shaft in. We accidentally touched shafts. I don't think it did any damage. Keep spinning, keep going in.
Now, even though this is the same exact cam we've ran in a couple other builds at this point, they've made one update to it that frankly seems like such a no-brainer. I can't believe it hasn't already been done. Now, previously, all these cams used the factory cam gear and the factory single bolt design. That means every time you wanted to do a cam job to one of these, you'd have to get inside this just big monstrosity of a factory cam gear and either limit or lock the VVT function. Now, they've actually done away with the single bolt design and switched to a 3-bolt design just like LS camshafts. It also comes with a new cam gear for that 3-bolt design, and unlike the factory one that has all those springs and all that other BS in it, this was designed to do one thing and one thing only. That's be a cam gear. Now, is there anything particularly hard or difficult about that whole single cam design, about deleting that stuff? No, there's really not. But it adds an extra step that just makes it seem more complicated, and I honestly think that just scares a lot of people away. Now, I do have to give this factory Demon Cam a bit of credit. It has been through it. It got whooped on by the original owner, then it was in a fire, and then we beat the absolute brakes off it. It is still in pretty much perfect shape. There's no scoring, nothing weird. I'm honestly kind of surprised by that. Now, being that we deleted VVT here, we can also get rid of our VVT solenoid. Now, there's nothing preventing us from just leaving this whole thing in there. We just wouldn't connect any wiring to it, wouldn't really do anything. It'd just be filling a hole. This is, you know, pure economics, stocks as they call it, right? This whole thing, because they fail on occasion, is worth about $100. But this metal plug that is made to block off that hole is about $40. So, you know, yeah, really can't help but feel like Warren Buffett would be proud of me on this one. Slide our little keyway in. And we get the dampener back on. There we go.
What's that say?
Semi, Mopar, no part.
Yeah, that's the right one, right? That's the right tool. Now, normally that'd kind of just be the first phase of a cam install. You'd have to run through, do all your springs and retainers, change your valve seals while you're in there. But being that we already have this engine built, all that's already been done. So all we have to do is slap some push rods in it and throw it back together. I suppose, being that these rockers are rocking and whatnot, that technically concludes our cam install. Now, we've done that quite a few times at this point. We knew that was gonna go smooth. It's the rest of this whole deal. That is where we're, I guess, venturing into uncharted territory a little bit. Now, a Demon engine is basically a Hellcat engine, right?
Wait, hold on. So I got a Demon engine on my 350Z.
It's essentially, but definitely not, a Hellcat engine. And a Hellcat engine is what came in a Trackhawk. So you think it'd just be as easy as taking this thing off the engine stand and sticking it in the engine bay. But if there's one thing I've learned from working on Mopars these past couple years, if it sounds like it's gonna be easy, it definitely ain't gonna be easy. So what we've done is taken everything we have left from that Trackhawk engine and so now it's really just a matter of digging through all this stuff and figuring out what we need to slap onto here. Now, some of the stuff's pretty obvious, like this upper water neck. On the Chargers, the Challengers, it exits to the passenger side, but on the Trackhawks, it goes off to the driver's side. Got our water neck here. It's kind of a weird design. One of the bolts goes through the water neck. The other thing here that's pretty obvious is gonna be the oil pan. Though when you put them next to each other like this, they really don't look that different. Obviously, the Trackhawk one drains from the bottom, this one drains backwards, and the one off the cars, they have these like veins that come forward like that. The one off the Trackhawk, they made it a good bit more low profile, I'm assuming to clear this big front differential that sits right under it. I'm almost wondering though, being that it's still a front sump design, we're gonna be able to get away with the rest of it being the same too. That would be a nice little bonus. There's a little E85 type sludge down there. Yeah. Because this car does sit a lot, but yours was way worse.
What is that?
Pick up. Now, when we originally pulled this thing out of the burnt Demon and had it gone through by BES, we obviously didn't go all out with the build, right? We didn't do the cam. It's still a stock crankshaft, but we did have the good sense to throw in a set of aftermarket Manley rods and a set of pistons as well. So while it's not some all-out crazy built engine like the 426 in the Supra, it's still prepped to handle pretty much anything we can throw at it with this new blower.
Careful, buddy. This is expensive.
I hate the gasket situation on these.
Sand bolt, buddy.
The oil pan gaskets, what are they running now? Like $140 or something
Yep.
like that? Stupid. I mean, I get it. Like, yeah, the baffle's part of the oil pan gasket. I guess it's a clever design, but it's not a cost-effective design by any means. So check these pickups out. They are the same exact length, size, curvature. The mounting bracket's in the same position, but the bottoms are a bit different. RTV, you're up. You've been here for a while, you know the drill. We're using Toyota sealant.
Looks lined up to me.
Go ahead and toss our Trackhawk specific coolant hard lines on. That felt very satisfying. Now, one other thing we just found that's different that probably should have been quite obvious is the motor mount brackets. You can see the Trackhawk ones position the motor mount just a hair further forward than the ones in the car do. It's funny because the more you look at these, the more stuff's the same, but just like that much different. The Challengers, the Chargers, they still have this like alternator support, but it comes from further back. It's a longer piece. This guy's ultimately gonna wedge up against the outside of the alternator, which I guess we can toss on as soon as we get our engine harness sorted. Since our original plan was to just leave all this stuff together, the engine harness is still on the transmission and the old junked up subframe. Transmission connector. I think we should be clear. If I can get it out. There we go. All right. Let's have ourselves some fun. When you're starting from scratch like this, it always helps to have kind of like a ground zero, just somewhere to build from to help keep you square on everything. And for me, that is right here. There's 2 knock sensors on this engine, one on this side, one on the other side, but only one of them has a crank sensor next to it. So it looks like at least one of the things I was worried about is gonna work out just fine. That is our oil pressure sensor, and this is our oil temperature sensor down here. And on these, they did like a mid-year change. Some of the newer cars have a much smaller connector on them. I forgot what was on this harness, and I also forgot what was in the engine. It turns out they're both the older style, so we don't have to scramble around for another sensor. The temperature, that works just fine. That oil pressure sensor was what was stopping us from slapping this alternator on too, because you can't get to it once this is on. We got our other knock sensor over here, and then on this side, we also have our starter. So that takes care of pretty much all the basics. Now, there's still a lot of stuff on the top of the engine on both sides that we need to plug in, but almost all of that goes to that one giant piece in the center that we ain't thrown on yet.
They make cool noises.
Yeah. What noise does it make?
You tell me.
No, you do it better.
You're the Mopar
No,
guy.
you do that thing better, though.
You got experience,
Well, let's throw Tim up there. This is our new Kong 2650 supercharger. And yes, it's technically smaller than the 2.7 liter Demon blower we're swapping it out for, but it's a far more efficient design, which is why it's gonna make a ton more power even though it's smaller. With these Demon blowers, the key to making power in them is putting as small a pulley as possible on it, spinning it as fast as you can, and the byproduct of that, of course, is heat. And at some point, there's just diminishing returns there. With this, you can spin it slower, which sounds boring, but when it means you're also staying cooler and making more power, I mean, spinning it slow ain't so bad, right, Fernando?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, this thing has served us so well. We made over 1,000 horsepower on nitrous in the OG Demon with this thing and beat the absolute brakes off it. And somehow it's still in really nice shape. So I will be sad to see it go, but we had to struggle to get to 1,000 horsepower on this. Realistically, we could do it on this blower fairly easily. In fact, it's the same blower we made like 980 horsepower on the Demon truck that had a stock engine. So it's fun to think about what it could do on a built engine, right?
Kind of got a feeling that we're both gonna interact with the same differential style.
Oh my God. That don't match up with the stock transmission every year we have in it now, but it's a problem for another day, right?
Is it?
It's gonna be. They do say the Trackhawk drivetrains are supposed to hold up pretty well, so suppose we're gonna see. I do have a feeling that just, you know, something in this general area, maybe the transmission over there, probably gonna end up broken though, you know how it goes.
Definitely.
I know this ain't the point here, but this thing looks awesome. It's kind of stockish looking. It's not like the Whipple we have in the Supra, but something about it, it just looks tough. I don't know if it's like the matte black lid, or maybe it's the fact that we're actually getting close to driving that thing after like a year. Either way, I love it. Now we just gotta put the finishing touches on it and then put it in the car. I suppose first things first, we have to pick a pulley, of which we have a lot. Now these two pulleys are left over from when we did the 2650 on the Demon truck. I think we tried the 3.0. I don't even think we touched the 325. Ultimately landed on the 275, and these are the ones they've sent us this time. I do suspect, just like it happened on the whole truck build, especially considering that we're working with a built engine this time, they would end up skipping right over these things and they'd be on for like a dyno pull or two. Let's be real. Let's just learn from our mistakes for once and go with the small pulley off the rip, right?
There we go.
Let's just jump to it, right? While we're at it here, we're also gonna go ahead and swap out to a 108mm throttle body. It's a pretty big upgrade for the factory 92. Now, we did have a little bit of an oopsie on the throttle body front, as in, I forgot to order it. So we had to go snatch the one off the truck, and we'll have to replace the one on the truck. But hey, that thing's down for a little maintenance anyway, so you know, no harm, no foul, I guess. I think the last thing we gotta take care of here before we can get it off the stand and onto the transmission and hopefully in the car is our fuel setup. Now, one of the...
Hold on. Are you ain't gonna use those, right? Where the Billy ones are?
Here we go. Here we go.
The one that we always
Yeah. So,
where are those at?
Anyway, as I was saying, one of the benefits that we have, being that we're in a Trackhawk here, is the stock fuel systems are pretty good. They use the same dual pump that the Demons and the Red Eyes do, so we're good there. We're good to run the factory fuel pump setup, at least for now. And just for simplicity reasons, we're also gonna keep the stock, man, these are in there. We're also gonna keep, this is really spiraled. We're also gonna keep the stock fuel lines and fuel rails, which I know Fernando doesn't like. One thing we definitely aren't gonna be able to get away with though, is stock fuel injectors. So we're gonna run these same injector dynamics, I believe they're 1700 cc injectors. They were originally out of the Demon. We sent them out, had them cleaned since they've been sitting with a little ED5 in them for a while. And one little modification we have to do here, since we're running factory rails, is just extend the fuel out a little bit, because currently you can't make the hose reach, being that I guess it sits just a hair wider than the factory blower. That was very anticlimactic, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, there we go. Extended and, oh. We gotta put that belt on. We could do this in the car, but here, it's much easier to do it out. I'm gonna play my favorite game, and that's, do we have a belt that fits our new blower setup? We usually make it work. We usually have something. What do we start with, a 579?
Yeah.
See if it works. Basically, every blower, every pulley combo has a different belt fitment requirement, and I'll tell you off the jump, and this one is too short. It's one of those things that, unless you've done that exact setup before, which we have. As I'm saying that, I realize we have. We can just get the belt off of the truck down there. So, yeah, let's do that. $594. All right. Yeah, we're so used to trying to figure this out on the fly that I completely forgot that we have the exact same pulley setup down here. 600 could work. Uh-oh.
No, wow.
The one time we actually know what we need, we're not going to have it. $594, all right. And just like that. It's weird when you actually know what you need, things work out. Our engine is basically ready to go in here. Don't fall. Oh, we just gotta get the car situated, give ourselves something to put the engine onto, and then kind of put the puzzle pieces together. This almost just feels weird. This is the first time we've actually touched the car. We've been getting the engine set up, and after such like a long hiatus, this feels cool. It feels really cool. Oh yeah. Eventually, we're gonna have to get back into all this. Do you remember this, Fernando?
No.
There's so much broken wiring on here. Now, the subframe setup that was in the Trackhawk just now, that was out of that Jeep SRT. This is all the stuff out of the actual Trackhawk. We've got to do a little bit of swapping around now. Now, most everything over here on this subframe is damaged. The subframe, that's heavily tweaked. The steering rack, well, you can see the inside of it, that's never a good thing. And then there's the front differential, which we thought might have survived. But if you look right down here, something got pushed into the front cover of the diff. I assume it's part of the steering rack that broke off. So even that's bad, which means the only things that are good on here, at least hopefully, are the transmission and that front drive shaft. We do have a spare front diff out of the SRT. The question is, are they the same? The rear axles weren't. We had to do a little swapping around there. I'm hoping we've got better luck on the front. Because first things first, we'll test the inner CVs here. If these Trackhawk axles, or what's left of the Trackhawk axles, slide in, then we know we're good there. I think it wants to. Good on that side. Wow, that one wasn't even clipped in. All right, good on both sides there. And being that we already have the SRT Jeep hubs on the subframe that we're putting back in that car, we know the outer CVs to the SRT axles, there's a lot of swapping going on here. We know the outer CVs to the SRT axles are gonna fit. So there's our part number there, ends in 558AA, and it's a 370. So if the one on the Trackhawk is the same, I'll feel real confident that everything's good. So there is a part number difference, but these things were made 2 years apart, so that doesn't necessarily surprise me. The ratio is the same, the axles fit, we're rolling with it. Well, that ain't great. So this drive shaft felt like a little wonky when we took it apart. I didn't really think much of it, because if we turned it, it still spun the diff, it still did everything it was supposed to do, but that thing was holding on by a thread in there. It started coming apart when we were messing with it, which isn't uncommon. This like end cap here will sometimes come off, and you have to make sure all the bearing balls don't fall out. But on this one, well, basically everything came out in pieces. I guess it doesn't much matter. At this point, we can kind of just pull everything out and show you how it works. There we are. So this little cage kind of retains all those balls around this, I guess we'll call it the inner race, and it's definitely not supposed to be in multiple pieces. So that went just like that. Originally, I guess the shock from whatever got pushed into the front diff kind of just compressed this joint here and broke this thing in half.
You're gonna weld that, right?
No. So yeah, that's definitely not ideal. Either way, just found one online. It was brand new for 300 bucks. We ordered that. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. It's not gonna stop us from getting the engine in the car, and whenever the new one shows up, I think it'll be a pretty easy job to install it. You should be able to just drop this transmission mount, bolt it up there, be on our way. We are this close. The last thing we need to do is throw some headers on it. Headers which were supposed to be new for this build, but we used them. To be fair, it's for a good reason, right? Now, we got these beautiful stainless works headers just for the Trackhawk build, but when we went to fire that 426 up on the engine stand, we realized we didn't have headers, and we hadn't made the headers for the Super yet. So we picked the closest set of headers and threw them on. Got to finesse our dipstick in here on the motor mount and into the oil pan, which I, along with you guys, definitely not see. Ooh, there we go, we're in the hole. The one thing we do have to do with our fancy new headers here is extend our O2 sensors. The bungs get pushed back a good bit. I think they're like right around here on the factory ones. It'll give us this like foot long extension wire for the primaries. And it'll go in right there. And then for the secondaries, we have an even longer one, which that won't really come into play until we get it in the car and get the connection pipes on. We're clear.
You think so?
You ready? You ready to do it? I think so. I mean, look at all this roof. Let's fill this hole. How about that? This thing is heavy. Heavy, heavy. You can feel it just pushing it around on the cart compared to one out of a car.
Yep.
Oh, it ain't fall out yet. It ain't fall out. That wasn't even English. It's not even bolted in all the way. They're hand tight. The trans isn't even bolted in, but it still feels really good.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I forgot or what, but you think because it's a truck, it's a huge engine bay, that this engine will be way down in there, kind of like it is in the Demon truck, but no. No, this is like, it's there. It's prominent. You can see this cool new blower. This is going to be fun. This is going to be real fun. Now, unfortunately, we do have a lot more work to do before we can actually start it, so I suppose we should stop yapping and get wrenching. Now, I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way to go about this. We're going to start with under the car, just because it kind of feels the most familiar. Get the torque converter bolts in here. There we go, 31, or in this case 37. It's a little higher than anticipated. Footopes. On to the exhaust system. Now, on this thing, we lucked out in that it already has an awesome Borla Attack exhaust system from here back, so we really don't have to touch it. Now, that Borla exhaust is made to mate to the factory headers and extension pipe. But on the same note, these Stainless Works long tubes and connection pipes are made to mate to the factory catback, so they should just bolt right up, right? Right? Yeah, that's I was looking for more assurance, yeah. Sometimes you run into issues when you're running multiple brands of different exhaust systems. Sometimes you have to do a little modification. I think these are gonna bolt up just fine though, if I have the right side. Oh yeah, we're right there. Check that out. Right, almost right there. We'll get it back a little more. Right there, perfect. As much as I like this thing looking like a nice, complete Trackhawk, we got so much front end work to do. Probably gonna be smart if you go ahead and pull the front bumper off. The only real way to approach this is just start throwing stuff on and I guess see where it takes us. I'm pretty confident that at least on the back of the engine, we're gonna have most of what we need because a lot of that stuff was shielded from the wreck. One thing we're definitely gonna need before we start it is the oil cooler. Now, the oil cooler bracket is broken pretty much everywhere it possibly can be, and we don't have another one yet, but we should still be able to stick this on and at least hang it there so we're not spewing oil out when we crank it up. Just for the time being, all right? Mm-hmm. The next big item on the list is gonna be the radiator slash cooling fan slash heat exchanger slash AC condenser slash transmission cooler. And I have a feeling this is kinda gonna be in a mess because basically everything in the front of that Trackhawk was destroyed. In fact, this is all we have left from it. It's a radiator fan that's, well, broken, and then this is the AC condenser, and the bottom half of it right there is the transmission cooler. I thought, or hoped, I guess is probably the better word, that a lot of this SRT stuff was gonna be cross-compatible, but given that this stack isn't meant to have a heat exchanger in it, I'm not sure if that's gonna be the case. I guess let's check the fan first. These look similar. Once again, different part numbers, but those look pretty similar to me, right?
Yeah.
It mounts the same, the plug's the same, the fan motor diameter is the same, the blade diameter is the same. We're rocking with it. You know, that actually does look the same. This is our weird little square mount. That's identical. That's the AC line ports. Then you have the transmission cooler line ports, which are up here. Yeah, all that's identical. All right, well, we're off to actually a better start than I thought we were gonna be. I guess the only other question here is it possible in any way, shape, or form to mount this heat exchanger to an SRT radiator stack, and unfortunately, it kind of looks like the answer to that might be no. This is the direction it would need to face. The two lines need to come out this way on the passenger side of the car, and it looks like there needs to be something kind of similar to that mount, but a little bit lower. That's if we're to believe that this is going to slide into something right at the bottom of the stack. Yeah, so while a lot of the stuff that bolts to the radiator is the same, the radiator itself might not be. Yeah, if you take a look at them online, you can see pretty clearly that it's exactly like we thought. There's a bunch of different mounts going down the side of it. Could be worse, I guess, right? We at least got a couple parts that we don't need to replace, but we had to buy a new heat exchanger. We got a new radiator on the way now. We fired it up with a busted radiator last time. This time we're gonna fire it with no radiator because I really don't want to wait a week to do it.
You really want to hear it chop, huh?
I want to hear it bad. Yeah, I want to hear it. Can you tell? You know, I remember what feels like not that long ago, sitting in this thing and it had a full interior in it and it almost felt like a car, if you could ignore all the blown airbags in your face. This feels not at all like that. Now, to be fair, most of this is just simple reassembly. The one big piece though that we gotta figure out first so we can try to put some power to this thing and hopefully start it is our dashboard. If you watched the earlier videos, you know we had kind of a dilemma on that front. This particular Trackhawk, it was pretty much the highest option, highest MSRP one you could build. It was $101,000 new, and one of the things that made it that way is this Laguna premium leather wrapped interior package, which is cool, right? We get a nice red interior, a bunch of high quality leather wrapped panels that do feel really good when they're not covered in dust, but that also comes with a leather wrapped dashboard, which again is cool. The problem with these is they never hold up. They always do this. The leather starts peeling up, it shrinks. That feels more like a rock than it does leather. To buy one of these bad boys from the dealer, we're looking at just under $4,000. And I didn't want to do that, so I was hoping that since we had some downtime with this car, we could have found a used one that was in decent shape for a bit cheaper, $1,000, $2,000. The problem is every single one of these that happened to come up on eBay, they all had the same exact problem. They were all at the very least starting to peel, and even if it starts off like that, eventually it's gonna look like that. And like that. So as much as I really honestly did not want to use the dashboard out of the SRT because it's not the premium signature leather model or whatever, that's what we're gonna do. I feel like for that almost $4,000 we have to pay for a new one of those dashboards, we can be well on our way to a custom interior. So if we get the car together and we really like it, we'll just put that money towards building something cool and not spending it at the dealership. Now before we put our dash bag on, we do have to do a little bit of wiring here. So when the airbags blow, it melts these little yellow SRS connectors to the airbag itself. The connectors are just sacrificial. First thing that happens, we put power to this car, boom, there goes the new dashboard, right? No, everything's gonna be fine, I'm pretty sure. You remember how all this goes, right?
Nope.
You weren't watching? I thought you were paying attention to this. Ready for the fun part?
Kinda.
Born ready. All right, so I gotta get this up, and we gotta get the steering column through it, because you can't bring it up from under. And all their engineering genius, Dodge did it that way. Or does it just need to go up? We need to try to spin this switch. Maybe there's a way to, oh, there we go. All right, we're spun. Bring it this way. Yep. Oh, there we go, right? Yep, we're in. I think we all have that like one part of a car that we really don't like messing with. And for me, that's just dashboards. It always consistently sucks. But for some reason, this is just all went better than you expect. Maybe it's because it's a Jeep, it's, you know, a big car, there's a lot of real estate. We still got a ton of swapping around to do and whatnot on the center console. But one of the functions we're definitely gonna need to try to fire this thing up is a shifter. So for now, we're gonna dump the SRT one in here, just temporarily plug it in. There we go. This is the most important button, right? It's the only one that matters. Now I can throw in our instrument cluster. This all feels like it's going together a bit too easy. I'm like 50% certain that we're gonna have to pull something back apart because X isn't working. I don't know what X is yet, but I'm sure there's gonna be something. big yellow connector here. It goes to our clock spring, which I don't necessarily know if we need right now, but it's right in front of us. It's right here. Let's plug it in. It feels like there should be more, right?
Definitely.
It feels like we're missing something here, but I don't think so. I don't think we are. You want to grab a jump pack and see what happens, I guess? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Not work? It already doesn't work. So, like, yeah, screw it, right?
Yeah. Why you look so nervous?
All right, you ready?
No.
Ready for that dashboard to go boom?
Oh. Ah.
Hey!
Yeah.
All right, we got some. I mean, of course it should do that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little too excited for that.
Why
but,
you just
hey,
got one headlight?
It's funny you ask. The harness is ripped off right about here, so everything that goes to this side, it don't work yet. It don't work yet. Everything's on in here.
Can you put music on now?
I bet I can. I bet I can. Let's see. Play as a theft code. Yeah, man. So if we hit accessory, all right, it works. Everything's coming on. The vehicle not in park. So it is technically in park. That's just because we have a panel popper wedged in the neutral release under the car on the transmission. Let's see. Oh, you hear that fuel? It's fueling. You can hear the fuel pumps kick on. You heard the whole system pressurized. And I don't see any leaks. I don't see any leaks. Gonna get all this 93 octane out of here, fill it up with some fresh E85, and I mean, there's nothing left to do. We just push that button and I guess hope it starts. All right.
Bye.
All right. 3, 2.
Sand it.
Oh, yes! Right up! Right up!
Wow!
Oh, it runs so poorly. What are you pointing? Is it smoking its ass off?
A lot. Wow! You hear that? That was quick though.
It sounded good for a second.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Let's go!
It's alive!
I like it.
It's idling horribly right now, but it is idling nonetheless. Come on, little Rick! This house! Come on! Look! Hey!
God damn!
Oh. Fire back up! And not only is the Trackhawk back to life, but the OG Demon engine is back up and running. And man, it sounds frickin' wicked. There's a lot to dial in here. Honestly, there's a lot to dial in everywhere. There's a lot of dialing in to be done. Well, I suppose we should probably shut this thing off before it, you know what, it did it itself. I was gonna say we should probably shut this thing off before it overheats and we damage something, but yeah. Original plan here was to use this radiator out of our donor car SRT Jeep that we bought, just slap our heat exchanger on it, throw a fan on the back of it, and be on our way. And as we found out last episode, that don't work because this radiator ain't made for a heat exchanger. So what we've done, being that the factory radiator straight from Dodge is like $800, and I definitely did not want to pay that, it's got an aftermarket version from our friends at CSF. The SRT radiator is only meant to hold this guy. It's the AC condenser / transcooler assembly. It goes down like that. We should be able to stick this one onto here though. Like that, I guess. But then, this one's also gonna have these other little legs and brackets that are gonna allow us to slide our heat exchanger in. We should be able to mount our radiator fan to the back of it, which is from the SRT, but is definitely the same as the one off the Trackhawk. I do think to put this in, we're probably gonna have to pull this whole front core support area off. Probably wouldn't have had to do any of this if we'd have put it in before the engine was in here. So that requires planing, and we are bad at that. do our little transmission cooler hack from last time where we had the hoses just looped together. Let's go in with her. Hopefully this goes nice and smooth, being that we got all this room.
That's kind of comfortable to do, though.
It is. You know, I do like working on big cars like this. There's something to be said about having just a ton of room to work with. Both of our AC lines are going to terminate right here into the condenser, and the big one has a little retainer on it. It's going to hold in the small one too. And before we get to our main radiator hoses, we'll go ahead and hook up these heat exchanger lines. And one thing they've done that's actually pretty cool here is they've color coded them. You got blue to blue. That is a very faint yellow, which is this guy here. Then we got this one that's, I guess, gonna snake all the way through here and run to one of these lines coming off the back of the supercharger. Green to green. Now for our radiator hoses. We got a bunch of them here. Some are off the SRT, some are off the Trackhawk, and honestly, I forget which. When we pulled this thing apart originally after the wreck, it had a really slightly cut upper radiator hose. And I'm positive I said something along the lines of, we'll have to get one of those before we put it back together. And, well, you know how that turned out. We got some Ford here, we got some Dodge, we even got the lower radiator hose off the Jeep SRT, which, fun fact, is definitely not the same as the Trackhawk one. Now, this guy, which I believe is a Hellcat Charger Challenger upper radiator hose, this almost looks like it works. It's got the right curvature, we'd have to cut it down a little bit, but this part here, it's significantly bigger than the outlet on the radiator itself. I mean, maybe we could clamp it down and make it work, but I can see that thing flying off and that not being a great time, right? 100%. So instead of clamping down a hose that's too big, we're gonna mold our own hose, which is definitely just a fancy way of saying we're gonna heat up a hose, jam it over an outlet that's too big, and hope it all works. I do think this lower SRT radiator hose, a good fit, right?
Yeah.
I think we should be smart about it and cut it a little long the first time.
Definitely.
That'd be a first, right? So we need to bring this to the size of that.
It's gonna work. And probably not.
We're in progress. This is more than I thought it would be. I am positive that is not the way you're supposed to do that, but it worked. Now, keep in mind, we're just doing this as a temporary fix until the right hose comes in.
Yep.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll get on that. So that should be the bulk of what we have to do in the engine bay. There's really only two more things that come to mind, and luckily they're the fun ones. Number one, we need an intake, and for that we got the sick carbon fiber unit from Leg Maker. And the whole thing with them is they're supposed to be just a bolt-on affair, and it would be if we didn't go upgrading the throttle body. Now, that don't fit. So we're gonna have to ditch the coupler it came with and kind of hack up this one, which was very hard to find, believe it or not. This one's 4.5 inches on both sides, which is perfect for the intake, and it just so happens to be the right size to fit the outer diameter of this 108mm throttle body as well. I'm gonna use a little bit of a hack here and put this clamp on as straight as we possibly can, and then use this as a guide to cut. I don't know if any of you guys have seen me freehand to cut around a coupler before, but it is not a pretty sight. It's bad. So since our throttle body is a little bit bigger and pushed out this way more due to that spacer right there, it's gonna make it maybe a little bit tricky as to how we're gonna direct this. I think they want you to do it this way, but the stock throttle body sits back probably about like there, so you have plenty of room to do it. I think we're probably gonna have to go something more like that. Get that out of the way. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking this is it, right here. It's not hitting anything. It is super close to everything, but when you have this huge intake and filter in there, I guess that's just how it's gonna be.
That looks cool though.
It does look awesome, right? It does look really cool. Now, the very last thing we gotta do in the engine bay, unless of course we forgot something, which happens quite often around here, is our oil catch can. This guy's the Improved Racing CCS catch can. It's kind of the street version of that big race catch can we run on all the race cars. They made a kit specifically for the Trackhawk, and she will slide down here right in between these two ECU connectors. This is a tight engine bay. There's not a lot of room to do anything, so I'm kind of impressed they managed to make it work. And they've given us pre-made, pre-cut hoses that simply replace this little ugly plastic guy. One goes from the snout of the blower right there to the top of the catch can. Another one right there on our valve cover and to the other port on the catch can.
I like how everything looks like OM plus. Like it's not
It does,
out of
like,
it. You know, it match.
For once, we didn't like completely jack up a car and make it some just hateful to drive, albeit fast, piece of junk. Now, we've already heard this thing run, but it didn't have a cooling system in it. It didn't have all the accessories on it. Do we really need to do another, test start? No. Already runs way better.
100%.
Even though we finished up the cooling system, there's nothing we changed mechanically that should make it run this much better than last time. The only difference is we sent a copy of the tune file to the guys at Flying Ryan Performance. They made a few small updates, and whatever they did, it clearly, obviously worked. Most importantly though, everything looks really dry. I don't see anything on the heat exchanger lines up top. Nothing there. Transcooler lines, they're good. We haven't filled the AC yet. Our repair or modification, whatever you want to call that, it ain't leaking, at least not yet. I don't see anything leaking under here. Nothing's dripping. The floor's even clean. I think we are Gucci. And now that we're at least hopefully sorted on the drivetrain front, we can move on to the more exciting part, the suspension, which feels just really odd to say, but we got so much cool stuff to play around with under here, including a real ignorant set of wheels that I'm standing by. It applies this one time. Now, before we bust any of this stuff open, we still got some shaft issues to take care of from last episode. This whole time, I thought we were gonna get away with using the drive shaft that came out of the Trackhawk. Luckily, we were able to find a brand new OEM drive shaft on eBay for half the price of the dealer. We got it for like 300 bucks from some guy that just had it sitting in his garage. 300 bucks. 10 minutes of work in the grand scheme of things. There could have been a lot worse things to find broken. Of course, we will probably break all those shortly after we get this thing on the road, but that's a problem for another day, I guess. So I think technically this thing drives now, as in all four wheels would actually move in the same direction. As for driving straight though, that is a whole different story. Luckily though, we got exactly what we need to get her just straight as an arrow down the road, right?
What does that sound though?
These guys are by AAD, and they're gonna give us essentially unlimited control of our suspension geometry, which will really come in handy given the wheels we're gonna run on this car. And then of course there's the real reason we bought them, and that's because they look cool, and that's why we buy car parts, right?
Yeah.
That's the main reason.
They're gonna match the calipers, right?
In the interior. Ooh. See, I love how that justification really just came full circle there.
Uh-huh.
These guys, we actually got our first hands-on look at them just a week ago on that scat pack that we parted out. That, just by pure dumb luck, had a set of these same AAD arms on the rear of it. They're so sick. This guy here is our last. I just shot that nut way across the shop. This is our last rear. This is our last rear arm, and if nothing else, I don't know which ones of these are bent, but these certainly just look so much better, right?
Yes.
Once we get these guys in, the only factory arm we're gonna have left on the rear is this giant rear lower control arm assembly where the spring sits. Now, I don't think these are bent, though they do have the marks from the Copart loaders on them, so I guess it's a possibility. We'll stick everything on, we'll get it aligned, and if something still comes out wrong or looks wonky, then I guess we'll go and replace these with a new set of OEM arms. They're all lubed up so she ain't squeaking. Not that you'd be able to hear it over the exhaust in this thing anyway, so I guess it really doesn't much matter. All right, I got an important question for you. All right?
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Remember the other day where you roasted me for not being able to say taquiera?
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 Taqueria.
Taqueria!
What's that say? Right there, right up top. That first word after W. What's that say?
After W? Sugar, see what's what?
Yeah, people probably know what you're talking about. Spheriflex.
Fair. What? Where's the F?
You heard, huh?
There's not an F on it.
PH is an F.
I really don't understand English sometimes. Not at all.
Now, outside of just looking cool, like I mentioned earlier, they're gonna give us so much adjustability when it comes to suspension geometry. Usually you just adjust the camber with those little eccentric bolts in there, but with those, there's always gonna be a limit. It's only gonna get you so far. But with these guys, they're a two-piece design. They'll pop apart right there, and they came with a ton of different shims. They look really similar, but they're all offset slightly differently. Now, I know only the rear suspension was damaged. We've already squared away the front, but there was only one more arm in the AAD catalog that was stopping us from completing the set, so
Do what you gotta do,
how
buddy.
could you not? Unfortunately, I don't think this one you're gonna be able to see like you might the ones in the rear, but we'll all know it's there, and that's what matters, right? But unlike the rear, up here you've got zero camber adjustment from the factory. These arms are just solid. There's no eccentric bolts up there. Those are just straight through bolts. There's nothing on the bottom either. So I guess we could argue that even though you're only adding one arm up here, this is the more important one. Now for our brakes here, these guys were originally yellow and then they were powder coated like a baby blue to match the wrap that was on this thing. I don't think it will work so much anymple No.
Nah.
No, we're doing the whole like dark gray and red theme. So we had to paint them for a third time and add a just stupid little touch here. I feel like in every Mopar build, we're due just like one goofy Cerakote job, right? If you're going through the trouble of having to change the caliper color again and you're not just like spray painting them, you might as well do something custom on them, right? Let's not just put Brembo back on it. Let's do something cool.
Exactly.
Or cheesy, depending on how you look at it, right? I know it feels weird putting this onto a used and very rusty front rotor, but back me up on this. Come feel this lip. Come feel this lack of a lip.
They're brand new, though.
It feels brand new. I think this will clear up real fast. Now, these rear rotors are actually not in bad shape either. There's a little bit more of a lip. They're about as equally as rusty, but over here on the passenger side, just noticed this today. It's actually chipped. Would it ever be a problem? I don't know. Love the rotors. These are like a quarter of the price of the front ones. We're able to get some same day from the dealer, so I figured we'll just pony up and replace the rears. You know, if you're like fixing up an old house, there's like different colored paints on the walls, patina, you know, it's got some history, some character. Well, we got not only that blue color overspray on the brake line here, but orange as well. So I guess when they had this car orange at one point, they did the calipers orange to match, which is cool. But wow, now we got a red bolt, blue and orange overspray. Well, really, yeah, we probably should have done something about all those oversprays. For whatever reason, I know it ran last time, but it did not feel like it was close. Yeah. There was no interior in it. It was just a box making cool sounds. This just feels different. Not only does it mean we're getting really close to driving it out the door for the first time, but it also means that it's time to bust out the wheels, which is surely deserving of some dramatic music. What's that say right there?
22?
22s. 22s. Man, I was so hyped to get 22s. It's the biggest set of wheels I've ever had. That's obviously the perfect car for it. If you're gonna do something like this, do it on a Trackhawk, especially a wide body Trackhawk. And then we went and bought the Delta 88. Now I don't know, 22s kind of just don't hit the same after you've had 26s. I do feel like 22s about as big as you can go before stuff starts looking awful like donkish and comical. And man, look at that. We had these things put together by my buddy Hassan at Chicago Auto Sports. We did the matte black insides, the gloss black outsides, and he freaking crushed it. And I know we do a lot of like really bright colored, obnoxious stuff here, but for some reason, a wide body Trackhawk that I'd really like to put some miles on and maybe even daily drive, it seemed like incognito, it was kind of the key here. As incognito as a wide body Trackhawk can be. Oh my God, they look so freaking good. Wow, they are wide too. I think we're gonna have to cut these things. Like, there ain't no way around it. Right? Look at that, unless it just sits high enough where it doesn't matter. But wow, being that it's a Trackhawk, you're not gonna be like tucking tire, so I think it might be fine. Either way, it looked ridiculous before, right?
Yes.
Like that looks stupid. And with our fresh new kicks on, now we just need to tidy up a few odds and ends, and we can hopefully pull this thing out of the garage for the first time. Tim's already fixed up all that broken wiring on the front end using the leftovers from the SRT chassis, which just came in handy more times than I can count at this point on this build. Figure we'll also go ahead and slap in taillights. Seems like a good idea to have. We're gonna road test it for the first time. The last area we really have to tend to is this whole center console. And of course, when we bought this thing, it had that really slick but also kind of janky secret compartment where the center console slid back. We don't really need that. Or if we did, we'd put it somewhere else and wouldn't mention it on the internet. You know, really missing out not working on SUVs before. This whole laying down while working on cars is nice. Last little piece of red on. And for the final piece of our interior ensemble, I guess we'll call it here, we got a new steering wheel for my friends. I should put the bolt in, huh?
Yeah, that's important.
That really sprung back out on me. From our friends at Galaxy Customs. Why are you backing up? You do this every time. If we have one blow up yet, it ain't gonna blow up.
Shut up.
Don't worry.
Don't call it too.
Don't worry. This is the last bit of interior, you know that, right? That's gonna be
Wait,
annoying.
wait, hold on. What are you get scared? I saw your reaction.
No. It's cold, it's only 85, you know, give it a second. Now keep in mind, we haven't so much as pulled this thing forward or backwards. All we've done is started on the lift, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't even moved the wheels, so I guess first test. Feels like it's in reverse.
Okay. It's moving. Yeah. Take off the fender liner.
Ain't nothing wrong with a little kiss in the fender liner, right?
Yeah.
That'll self-clearance in no time.
You hear that?
We are outside in the Trackhawk. Man, it's been a long time coming. Oh my God. Oh, dude, this thing sounds ridiculous. I think I'm a Trackhawk person. This is cool. Dude, I've never driven an SRT Jeep. I've never driven a Trackhawk. I don't think I've been in one before. So this is like the first experience. And man, this is cool. You got hot thing. Ready for a little 20% throttle rip here?
Okay.
Can you call that a rip?
Okay.
Dude, the sound's awesome. It sounds, I was worried it wouldn't sound Hellcat-y enough.
Wow.
It definitely sounds Hellcat-y. Man, it hasn't heated up at all. It hasn't done anything weird. We have so many different codes and whatnot. I think that's partially because we have so many just different modules from the SRT and other cars in it. Oh, we were talking about how those brakes we're gonna clean up. I mean, the rotors aren't rusty anymore. Problem is, the wheels are. Wow. Dude, it's honestly kind of surreal to have this thing outside after so long. I almost don't know what to say. It drives so good and so bad at the same time. I mean, it's no wonder this thing drives terribly. Look how much camber and just weird toe is on the rear wheels right now. This is usually the part where we get back in here and find something leaking or something blown off or just in general wrong. Yeah, it's not the case yet. I mean, there's a lot of like wetness under here, but I suppose that's just from the fact that we ran through a bunch of ice and water, which, you know, well, had to rip that Band-Aid off at some time, right? Mm-hmm. It just looks good. The only area that might be trouble is right here. This is one of the transmission cooler lines, and it's definitely wet, but that was wet before also, so I don't know if that's like residual from just it being nasty prior, or what, but I guess we'll see soon enough if the trans is leaking. Now, I do suppose since we finally have a somewhat complete Trackhawk, it's about time to call clock on the old SRT here. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna miss old girl. She's been here for a minute.
Nah, not at all.
I'm gonna miss it.
Time to
You'll miss it. I know you'll miss it. You'll miss it.
Weird.
How dare you?
I don't get it.
Oh, foot! I think it would be inappropriate if we didn't give this thing its proper due as probably the best parts car we ever got. We got so much from this thing, that whole front cut, basically the entire front end, so many just odds and ends that would have nickel and dimed us to death. This one was a good one. Don't get me wrong, I'm really happy to see it go because this means we can buy more junk and store it in the shop, but it's a good one nonetheless. So the Trackhawk's driving, the SRT's finally gone. This was supposed to be the part where we just clean her up a little bit, put a few miles on it, and then throw it on the dyno. Yeah, didn't quite work out that way. So what had happened here was we slightly underestimated the amount of fuel this thing's gonna want. So the Trackhawks from the factory have a dual pump setup. We've made over 900 horsepower on a dual fuel pump in the OG Demon. It wasn't gonna cut it this time. Even during data logging on the street to get ready for the dyno, we were out of fuel. So to fix that, we're gonna take the next logical step here and swap out to a triple pump setup by Fuel Injection Depot.
I mean, 3 are better than 2, right?
Yes, that does check out. That math for sure. Now, the difference between this triple pump setup and the ones we've ran in the past is this one's a direct drop-in and it's a returnless system, which means we can use the factory fuel rails up front. We don't have to re-engineer the whole fuel system. We just stick this in and then we're back on the road and then the dyno. Well, that was satisfying. Over this guy down in here. Pump seeing fuel for the first time. Then we stick our fat, stupid hands down in here and fish out the stock fuel line.
You got it.
Yeah. It might be fat, but they ain't that stupid. Use this to pull everything up. And now, that bolt should be able to thread in to the lower unit there.
That's pretty cool.
It is. We're even going to be able to use our stock fuel feed line here. Now the wiring side of things, we just got these little extension harnesses. Got to get down through here. So it gets tighter the more that are in the hole. You see that? These guys here are factory fuel pump control modules. And what we're going to do is add a third OEM module. It's really nice how this kit works. Just all like repurposing as much OEM stuff as possible. Everything's basically plug and play. It's all labeled. That goes there. This is for fuel pump control module number 1. Here we are. Fuel pump control module number 2. Goes there. And then this goes here. This guy right here, same thing. Pump number 2 right there to number 3, and then finally pump number 3. Then we just run this guy up to the battery, stick a ground on, and we're done. All right there. Pump's connected.
That's good. I can stand.
Yes, it is. It ain't good for me. Figure while we're under here, since everything's definitely gonna go fine this time, we might as well go ahead and pull this transfer case motor off. That way, she's ready for the rear-wheel drive dyno after we do one more little street test.
So you're gonna do the test on rear-wheel drive?
Yeah.
That means you're gonna do burnouts?
Well, no, I'll never do a burnout on a public street.
That's true.
Okay. Easy enough. We hear the pumps.
That's good.
How's she look under there? Should dry?
Yeah.
Dry?
Yeah.
All right, start up. Keep in mind we got open headers right now. Didn't want to put the whole exhaust on, then have to pull it back off to fix the inevitable gas tank leak that apparently didn't happen. Let's do it. Nice. We officially made it to the dyno. Now we're just gonna do one little break-in type pull, a nice baseline. We're only running it out to 6,000 RPMs. I have no clue what this thing's gonna make. Absolutely no clue.
689.
689.6.
Wow.
Seems like it might be spinning a little bit. Yeah.
I think it blew the tires off it.
That's not a bad start. Went up to 745 that time, and it felt real nice and smooth. We're still barely revving the thing out. Only went to 6,000 RPM. I feel like this is gonna be a good day. We're running about 21, 22 pounds of boost, and we don't have any smaller pulleys, so that's kind of gonna be what it's gonna be. We don't have any way to increase the boost. And basically what we have to do to keep picking up power in this is just add timing until it either makes a ton of power or pops, and really don't want that latter to happen, so hopefully we can find a nice sweet spot there. Where do we end up?
853.
8?
853.
Out of here. Where do we end up? It better not be in the 800.
No, it's not.
That's a threat.
965.
That's stout. All right, we'll do some bench racing math here. The Demon truck is on the same blower and the same pulley with a stock engine, and that made, well, like 980. So there's no good reason that this being a built motor, we can't crank it up a little higher and make 4 digits. Now, one thing that's kind of odd is we noticed the car is reading like 20 miles an hour higher than the dyno is. We saw it under full throttle in 5th gear, where the car was reading 110, but the dyno was reading 95. We then put it in 8th gear and ran it up to 110, and it matched perfectly. So that obviously suggested it's spinning. Throw a little VHT on the rollers, the same stuff they use at the track. That is way stickier. You guys know Rick from Big 3. He's the man when it comes to the Holly tuning, but this is on stock ECU, so we're using our stock ECU expert, Ryan from Fly and Ride Performance out in Texas. He's sending us another map right now. We got more time. We're gonna rev it up to 6,800 RPMs, and we got the sticky rollers. So, I'm saying over 800 for sure, right? Hopefully. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. Let's hope. This is a street car. Should be having these problems. This is race car type stuff here. That's clear as day rubber there. Wow, I really didn't expect this. We're gonna have to knock this tire pressure down and hope for the best. Looks so cool.
Damn!
We made some power spinning. Okay, still spinning, but from that last run where it was obviously spinning way worse, we picked up 140 horsepower.
Yeah.
Wow.
You robbing though.
Oh, it is.
I think that's where it's actually making the smoke.
Ah, you might be right. 2.5 degrees of negative camber is not enough.
My bodies are cool. You know?
Honestly, I'm not smart, but I don't think it makes sense to have 2 degrees of camber in the rear in a car that makes 809.
Well, right now, if it's strapped down like this, we got about 5 degrees of camber. It's
Exactly.
horrendous. It sits like this. We are going to fix that. We have a plan for after this. We just needed to get through the dyno first. And we're gonna. Oh yeah, it's certainly doing its thing up there. The flare is like pushed up a little bit. They're grooved up just a hair. It's really not as bad as all that smoke and the smell would lead you to believe. Man. Oh yeah,
119.
finally, yeah, the speed does match up.
Yeah.
See if maybe easing up on this strap a little bit. Just a hair. Helps us out. Oh, it changed much, but you never know. You remember how cold that Roush blower was on the Mustang?
Mm-hmm.
This ain't that. This is hot. And it's been like 15 minutes since that last pull. But hey, nothing's spraying out anywhere. Nothing's fell off yet. So I suppose we're in pretty good shape for once. You ready? We're going 7,000 this time. Where are we at? Where are we at? All right, 917. All right. That ain't so bad. That's good. I'm happy with that so far.
Barely hit the fender that time. You saw 121 miles an hour,
That's about right where it should be.
so it's not spinning.
Same deal as before, running up to 7,000 RPMs, only this time we've got a transmission tune too. Woo, there we go. Hey, I said I'd be happy at 950, right? Hell yeah, that's good. That is good. I'll try to get her nice and cool for next one. Maybe really get up there towards that 1,000 horsepower number. You ready to hit this again?
Let's do it.
I'm gonna go up to 7,200 RPM this time, see what it does. Blows the transfer case out of it, you know? Oh my God, what did I say, 980 something?
86.
986, dude, isn't that exactly what the truck made?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's spot on to what the truck made, which that checks out, right? Oh, we're hitting it. We're getting over 1,000. I mean, there ain't no turning back now. I know I said I was happy at 950 and all, but we're so close, we have to, right?
Yeah.
Stop making that face, Tim.
What did we talk before this? Right? Yeah. I didn't need 1,000 on a daily.
Oh, I didn't, but if I can have it, why not? The best part about this one is look at that power under the curb. That is massive. I freaking love blower cars.
Yeah.
Blowers are so good. Blower V8s. And now the weird thing that happened there is right here. When I first got into it, you could feel, and probably here too, that it was like, it was kind of like laggy. It felt odd. It didn't do what it's done all the other pulls. And what Ryan said happened during that little dip was that our bypass valve here on the blower was starting to try to open. And when that opens, you start bleeding off boost, you lose boost and therefore power. Now look at this. So right about there is where we started the pull, about 45 miles an hour. I laid into it a little bit just to make it not spin, but look at this. It takes forever for the throttle to really come on. For whatever reason, it only shows like 87% even when you're at full throttle. But it's like there was like a lag in the throttle. That's interesting. And if you look at the boost pressure right there, that's also way lower. And then when it finally gets up to 87%, the bypass valve's fully closed, and then we're at full boost. That is something. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's definitely something. What do you think he means by this? I'm texting with Ryan here and explained the throttle position deal to him, and he said that's actually a factory thing. The stock ECUs will do that. He said he could get rid of it, but he kept it in place.
Why?
Because I've seen what you do with these. What the hell does that even mean?
Yeah.
I can't fathom what he is talking about.
That's crazy.
Now, jokes aside, that probably will actually really help us with traction on the street, so I guess that's a good thing. Now, speaking of good things, it seems like this is, I guess, fully clearanced itself if it wasn't lessening up on those straps that fixed it. He sent us one more revised tube file, and he said, let's do this, and then let's leave it, and it makes what it makes. I'm calling it. It's going to make the same power that the OG Demon did with this same motor. 1005. Oh no, it's too hot. It made less.
You really want to see 1,000, huh?
Yeah, we're pulling out all the stops, right? You ever wondered how much an air filter hampers horsepower? We're about to find out. This is a good air filter too. I'm a little unoptimistic about this. I know air filters do hamper flow. You can pick up power, but this is like exactly 3 minutes after we did the last one, so she's hot. Worth a shot, right?
Yeah.
It was worth a shot. All right, so the new plan is we're gonna let this thing cool all night long, come in first thing in the morning, and we're gonna hit our number. Does it feel like 1,000 horsepower weather to you?
No.
Yes.
Over 1,000.
No, the correct answer was yes.
Over 1,000.
Yeah, I see what you did there. All right. It's a new day. It's early. Let's go make 1,000 horsepower. Yes! 1,006! Man, letting it sit overnight works.
Whoa!
1,005?
Look at all, that's gonna be so much fun on the street. Oh, I can't wait to go drive this thing. And on that topic, there's a problem that we have to talk about. Now, the original plan for this thing was as soon as we got it off the dyno, we're gonna throw that transfer case motor back in it and go rip this thing up on the streets. But given the ridiculous wheel choice on this car and the amount of rubbing that it's caused, I think we're gonna destroy these tires, and possibly even worse, we might destroy the fender arches. So it already has to go back to the guys at Top Coat to get its final buff and polish and whatnot. And I think, while it's there, we're just gonna have to have them hack the shit out of these fenders. I mean, really 3 of our 4 tires are hitting. Obviously that driver rear was the worst when we had it strapped down. But you can see even up here on the front, it's rubbing slightly. Hopefully it's not gonna be too long before this thing's back from the body shop. Maybe like a month or so. But hey, the good news is that should coincide perfectly with the track's opening up here in the Northeast. So
I like that.
We ain't just hitting the streets. We're gonna hit the track and see what it does. I think we have a 9-second daily driver. Like, there's no good reason.
9 seconds?
It should go in 9s.
Wow.
The truck, making a lot less power, went in the 9s. It should. Wow. Unless these wheels are too big and streety to go 9s and it doesn't hook up, I think we've got 1,000 horsepower, 90-second daily driver, and we'll be back very soon to prove it. I don't want to fucking hit it so bad.
Okay.
By the way, look at this pipe.
Pig though.
Weird.
I should probably got the hardware before I did that. There she comes, sliding right back.